That's right. It's the inevitably nonsensical, yet hopefully enjoyable, After Movie Diner. If you enjoy the show and have pursued the recommended treatment from your medical providers, why not support the show on Patreon over at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. You can also donate to the show directly at aftermoviediner.com. Rate and review the show wherever podcasts are found, and rating and reviewing is possible. Even a 1-star review provides useful insights on exactly the sort of petty-minded and wretched individual who negatively reviews free entertainment they do not need to be consuming. So, without further dribbling, John Cross.
All right. Well, hey, Matt. Good to see you, man. Yes. I am hunkered down in my basement since Friday with the COVID. I've had the Rona, as they say. The first day was hideous because it was all temperature. It was all, 103 degrees, 102 degrees temperature, and a lot of tossing and turning. And a lot of just in general uncomfortable, headachy, awful feelings. Since then, what's really funny is every single day, although the symptoms have been very mild, every single day, the symptom has slowly worked its way up my body. So like the next day after the temperature was all chest. Then the next day was sort of throat. Then it was earache yesterday. And today it's sort of head. Yeah. Just sort of a thick head. So I'm hoping that considering it's reached the top of my brain and it can go no further, Matt, unless tomorrow my toes start hurting and I'm like, damn it, it found a way to go back down to the bottom and start again. I think hopefully tomorrow I'm going to be okay.
Well, yeah, that was kind of my experience. I think I went like months after having COVID, like just getting the blockage out of my ears. I don't know why that was, but like my ears were just blocked for all that time. That's what I remember. Like it took a while to get like kind of, and I got gum and stuff like that, trying to like, it's like going on an airplane, having a bad airplane trip.
You put gum in your ear to try and like suck out the
whatever. Yeah. The fluid or whatever.
But then what ended up happening was you got the gum stuck in there. And then you needed to get like a very small vacuum cleaner to try and get that out. It was a long process, ladies and germs, but we're here now. So Matt, I've been, as I said, I've been living in the basement for the last 5 days, and we're very lucky to have a home where Kim and I can quarantine like that because, knock on wood, as we sit here right now, Kim, knock on wood, has not been affected, which is wonderful. I wore a mask anytime that I went up onto the main floor. Yeah. I obviously haven't had a ton of symptoms, so it's not like I'm coughing and sneezing and whatever. But in general, wonderful that Kim did not get COVIDized. Yeah. So we've been able to kind of quarantine, which has been nice. I mean, in the bathroom down here, because it's the bathroom for the cinema, Kim, when we were at the archive in Bridgeport one time, found a shower curtain that is all old black and white movie posters of films like Psycho, Robinson Crusoe on Mars, Die, Die, My Darling, Curse of the Undead, things like that, right? Yeah. So when I am facilitating myself of the porcelain for its intended use, which is a polite way of saying taking a crap, right. I'm looking at the shower curtain and it's got all these posters on it. Sometimes I'm sat there and I'm looking at Let's Kill Uncle Before Uncle Kills Everyone, which is one of my favorite movie titles ever. That's a William Castle movie. You've got The Headless Ghost. What I love about some of the old names on this, I'll be reading them in funny voices or whatever. And there's in The Headless Ghost, you've got Lillian Sautin, just Sautain or Sautin, like this exotic name. Then you've got Richard Lyon, like Lyon, just a thing. And then the third person in the movie is Dave Rose. Oh, Davy Rose. Yes. So I come up with these things in my head where, there's these two exotic people on set. You're at an old Hollywood movie film set for The Headless Ghost. And you've got Lillian Sautin, one of those like early debutante actresses, lounging on a chaise longue with a nightgown on, talking about the vapors, And then you've got Richard Leon, who's a brusque matador type with a big mustache and you know what I mean? Like the Hollywood in the 40s kind of thing. I am Richard Leon and I am Lillian Satan and whatever. And then there's just a creaky door at the back of the set. The door flies open and goes, "Hello, I'm Davy Rose." He's like this little cheeky Cockney. And that was making me laugh a lot. So yeah, so anyway, Tonight, when I was looking, and I try and pick different things out, I suddenly saw that the tagline for the movie Curse of the Undead is, "His body is an empty shell that hides a lustful fiend." And I thought to myself, has there ever been a better description of James Spader? Right? His body is an empty shell that hides a lustful fiend. And I'd never noticed that was the tagline before, but I think noticing that today, that means to me that we were meant to talk Spader today.
Yes, no, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, this movie in general is just I can't believe how great it worked out. That because we were going through a couple different movies, but it's it's the kind of movie that like. When you watch it, you're fortunate you've got like a podcast to discuss it after. I think.
No, exactly. It is, everybody, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Let's cue the theme music. Oh, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Welcome to the show. Oh, it's a Sleazy Spader Springtime. I want you all to know that if you please, there's James Spader Sleaze and it's got nowhere else to go. So loosen all your blouses, give your nose a damn good blow. We're gonna give you what for, politely, because it's 2024. Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. Oh yeah, it is 2024's Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. And if you've been following me on social media at all, you know that I'm not going to explain it anymore. I know it's summer. Shut the fuck up. It's Sleazy Spader Springtime. And as I said in a video this afternoon, Matt, much in the way that there is a culture right now, and I love this culture, these are my people, that embrace and take Halloween to their heart all year round, minus the trick-or-treating. They don't just knock on strangers' doors on July 15th and be like, "Oi, governor, give us some sweets." I don't know why everyone's Cockney this episode. That's it. Because even in America, there's little Cockney orphans going around going, "Come on, geezer, give me some sweets. I'll nick your watch." Will you be gone, ruffian? Be gone from my door. I take neither trick nor treat from you. Aha! And then anyway, sorry. So as much as people keep Halloween in their hearts all year round, you and me, Matt, and I think a handful of other people, I think Jim probably still secretly does, even though he doesn't want to do an episode on it anymore. Andy Lunn, we know, does. And I think others keep Sleazy Spader Springtime in their hearts all year round. And for that, God bless them, Governor. That is wonderful that they would do such a thing. And so we keep Sleazy Spader Springtime in our hearts all year round. And therefore July, as far as we're concerned, is still Sleazy Spader Springtime. Also, it could be the pep or spring one might get in their step when they think about James Spader. It doesn't have to, people think springtime, but it could also be the time I got a spring in my step for Spader, right?
Right, exactly. Well, because I think the other thing too is that I think sometimes with these things, it's okay that, like there's places here in Philadelphia that have names of like this, like I think there's a place called the Sansom like kebab house or something like that. It's no longer on Sansom. It's on South Street.
Right.
But it's like they didn't want to be suddenly the kebab place on South Street. They're just like, it's always like, yes, we know you're not on Sansom anymore, but we also know that you had a company name. You want to keep the company name. And I think sometimes that's, Sleazy Spader, same thing. We're keeping the company name.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to put it. It's fascinating as we come to the end, Matt, because what I'm realizing is whether we've put the episode out or not, by the time we finish this run, and after this we have the Pentagon Papers and Mo Porn and myself, or Mo von Helveter, sorry, and myself. Come on, Mo, stick with one last name. I can't keep up. Mo's sat there listening, going, John, it's been like 5 years that I've been von Helveter or whatever. Anyway.
I didn't even realize. I know on Instagram he's Mo Von, but I didn't even consider that it meant he was no longer Mo Porn. Because I think on No Budget Nightmares they still do the Mo Porn song for him.
Right. Well, I mean, in my heart, Matt, he will always be Mo Porn.
Right.
That's or Mosef Pornay, as I've often called him. But no, so Mo will be doing True Colors, which is the Cusack Spader joint. We'll do the Pentagon Papers to round out the season. And then, basically, I personally will have watched every single Spader movie in existence, except ones like A Killer in the Family, which he's just a bit part in, The Homesman, and Shorts, where he plays the bad guy. Yeah. So apart from those 3 other movies, I will have seen I've also seen The Practice and all of Boston Legal and at least 3 seasons of The Blacklist. I will have watched all of James Montague Rybold Eldris Spader. I believe those are his middle names, right? That are out there. And so what's nice is, Matt, is as we build up to the end of Sleazy Spader Springtime, both in the year 2024 and, in fact, because we have simply ran out of films, it's going to be nice to sort of tie a little neat bow on it. I can't think of another actor, even ones that I adore, like Donald Pleasance and things, where I could complete their entire filmography. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of get to the end of Spader and really be able to kind of look back at a life lived. And and what's funny is that you would have to know that not only do we have the Sleazy Spader Springtime franchise in the podcast, which I've on the website put, if you go to podcasts and do the drop-down menu, Sleazy Spader Springtime is one of them. And if you click on that, all episodes of Sleazy Spader Springtime are there for your listening and viewing pleasure. However, there is also 3 more Spader films that we covered as part of the Andrew McCarthy New Year's Eve special. Then there is a movie called Curtain Call, which I believe in the US is called something else. It All Came True. Yeah. So It All Came True, which is also known as Curtain Call. That movie I've seen, and we started an episode on. There was half an episode recorded between Jim and I on that film. And we got halfway through, and I really liked the film, and Jim didn't like the film. And it was one of those things where you're like, we just couldn't have a decent conversation because you couldn't get a riff going because there was no yes and. It was all no buts.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And therefore you can't, I mean, it's not that you can't have a conversation with someone who has a vastly different opinion, but when it's such an average movie and both your opinions are like, I didn't like the movie enough to defend it vehemently. You know what I mean? And Jim didn't dislike it enough to be like funny about hating it. It was just this sort of, somewhere in the middle, and it wasn't particularly interesting. So we knocked that episode on the head. So that movie I've seen, and we've started an episode on, but there'll never be one. And then there are 2 movies, Matt, that he has done that I've obviously seen, but that have never been part of Sleazy Spader Springtime, because I just feel like they're too of his big movie. It's almost like, what more would we have to say? And that is Stargate and Secretary. Now, Stargate, I think Doc and I talked about Stargate on a Dr. Action and Kick-Ass Kid podcast. So maybe I have done that on a podcast. I'll have to look that up. Because we've definitely done a bunch of Stargate jokes, Doc and I remember them. So maybe the only one I've never podcasted about is Secretary. But that's because how many times could you just say, and then Spader was sleazy? Like the whole movie, he's sleazy. I find Secretary a hard one to talk about because ultimately what Sleazy Spader Springtime is about at its core is here is a regular movie made sleazy merely by the presence of James Spader. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a certain, this movie has a certain aspect to it, although, you know, he's also a lascivious kind of character in this movie as well. But most movies, he's not playing a particularly sexually heightened character. Some are, but some aren't. Like sometimes he's just a doctor or a hitman or a lawyer or a whatever. And yet sex is the entire undercurrent of every single thing that he did.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny you're talking about Stargate, and I've never really put his filmography in timeline order. But you know how people do, you know, on Twitter or you know whatever, they do these sort of like engagement baity kind of things of like, name an actor who's had a better 4-movie run or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, if you do Stargate, or if you start from Stargate, you go Stargate, Crash, 2 Days in the Valley, and Driftwood.
Yeah.
But if you go from Crash instead of Stargate, so you go one movie later, it's Crash, 2 Days in the Valley, Driftwood, and Keys to Tulsa.
I mean, talk about a fall from fucking grace. Right. He hits every rung down on the ugly stick. You get, you know, Crash, apart from obviously being a huge controversy, which it was, it was also like the cast of Crash. Yeah. Although Spader is really only Spader and Holly Hunter rather are really the only two like super A-list names in the cast. Yeah. But if you go back, when we were doing the Crash episode, I was Googling Crash a lot to kind of get imagery and stuff like that. The number of like film festival photos there are of the four of them, Cara Unger, Elias Koteas, Spader, and Holly Hunter, looking like just the fucking it people. Like like this was the 90s people. This is what you were dealing with. It was sexy. It was young. It was gritty. Yes. They were the hot, like for that minute. Yeah. And to follow that up with what he followed it up with. I mean, talk about just a complete collide into the ocean of shit.
Right. Well, you can see now why he did Critical Care, because that's the one after Keys to Tulsa. He must have just been like, Sidney Lumet, I don't care what the movie is. I'm there. I'm going to do the movie with you.
Yeah, Spader was probably looking at that and being like, wait, Lumet wants to hire me after the run of films I've just done? But it's true. Like he sort of manages every few years in his career to work with like a big name director. And it's weird where tonight's film sits as well, because it's around about the time that he does Alien Hunter and then gets The Practice, basically.
Right.
And do you think he already had the contract for Shadow of Fear inked and was just like, fuck, I've got to go do that film in Washington State while I'm working on The Practice? Do you think that's what happened?
I have a hunch. I have a hunch that he was like, And I wonder if The Practice was like so happy to have him, because he saves The Practice, right? Like, I didn't realize this, that the Emmy he won for The Practice was as best lead actor. He had taken over that show so fully that he was considered the lead. Yeah. And then of course he wins it again for Boston Legal as the lead. He's the only person who's ever won for the same character in two different, because Lou Grant or Ed Asner, he won as supporting actor in Mary Tyler Moore, and then lead actor for his show Lou Grant. But so I didn't realize how badly The Practice also like needed him. Like they, so I wonder if they kind of Tara Wilson, Rona Mitra's character, Denny Crane, and James Spader all were in the last season of The Practice. And it's sort of the pilot for Boston Legal is what it is. And I forget how, where, or when, and I don't know whether I bought the DVD or it was on streaming for a hot minute before disappearing again. But I was able to, I forget how many years ago, Matt, probably 10 years ago now, I was able to watch the last season of The Practice. So I have seen those episodes that lead into Boston Legal, and then I've seen the 5 seasons of Boston Legal you get, although technically it's really only 4 full seasons, because season 1 and season 5 of Boston Legal are essentially only half seasons. So
they say 5 because they did it 5 times, but it was 4 full seasons. Yeah.
Right, with the 2 halves. Yeah. I wonder, maybe this is how the story works, is that he gets Boston legal after already signing Shadow of Fear. And he's like telling them, and they're like so happy to have him that they're like, fine, go ahead and do it. And he's like hoping that they're going to be like, no, you got to get out of that shadow. Like he would have an excuse or something to get out of it.
Right.
He could maybe sue or something like that. And he's like, So I really have to go do this Shadow of Fear. What do you mean you have? No, you're fine. We come when you're ready. Come back and we'll take you here. Like, are you sure you don't need me sooner? No, do it. And eventually he's like, oh, all right, I got to go do this Shadow of Fear movie.
Yeah, it's weird, but it does come off the back of a long run of, whether you want to call them direct to video, whether you want to call them B tier. Basically, after Secretary, instead of here's another time where he has indie cred, he gets a big festival favorite movie, a big art house favorite movie. It launches Maggie Gyllenhaal's career, et cetera, and you would think, yet again, Spader is in the zeitgeist. The zeitgeist is of Spader, and it's almost like Spader, throughout the Brat Pack years, when he really got to kind of let his tasseled hair fly, I think it's almost like by the time he has sort of success in later career, he's sort of listen, guys, I was there in the 80s. I don't need it anymore. You know what I mean? He does Dream Lover, which was that had a budget, even though it's a piece of shit. That did have a budget, but it's still it's only another small step up from Music of Chance, which is very low budget. But then he does Wolf, Stargate, and Crash, which that's like a 1, 2, 3. These are all big studio movies. I'm Spader playing in the big studio pool kind of thing. And like we said, he headlines along with Kurt Russell Stargate, and that's a huge thing. Stargate was such a big movie; it spawned TV shows and comic books, and whole novels and things. Like the Stargate universe, it's not Trek or Wars, but it's it's the third star. Yeah. So if you've got Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate is next in terms of, and maybe there's a big gap between Star Trek and Stargate, but still, it became a legitimate franchise. Not without Spader being there to molest the first alien woman. You know what I mean?
What I remember about being in the theater for other things and seeing trailers for Stargate, or even seeing the commercials for Stargate when they were running those, was, and it's funny because now I'm here doing Sleazy Spader, but like I remember seeing him in the commercials and just being like, man, like he's like a real sleazy scientist. Like, is this like Spader doing this? Like what is he doing?
Well, doesn't Independence Day come out after Stargate? Right? Wasn't Stargate before Independence Day?
Yeah.
Right, because essentially, Spader invents the floppy-haired sexual scientist that Jeff Goldblum would then run with. Ad infinitum. Well, no, because then Jeff Goldblum did The Fly, which is the original floppy-haired sexy scientist. All right, okay. It's the Goldblum Spader conundrum, though, right? Also, do you want to know something weird about Stargate now I think about it? Isn't there a bit in Stargate, and I haven't seen it for a while, where, like, Spader has to have sex with an alien woman? Like, isn't that part of Stargate?
It's been forever since I've seen it, too.
Where they're like, we need someone to usher forth the sire, the child of Beth Lebig or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's, because everything's a fucking Christ metaphor, Matt. Christ with the metaphors. But you know what I'm saying? He has to. I think he does another movie called Star-Crossed much earlier on in his life, where the whole plot hinges on him fucking an alien. I'm not even making that up. The 2 times I feel like Spader in his later career could have really, folded in some goodwill and sex appeal and become a big Hollywood star. He chooses not to, and the run of movies he does after Secretary are just
another great four movie run. Has anybody had a better? The Stick Up, The Pentagon Papers, Eyewitness in Hollywood, and Alien Hunter. Like I should get like the 4 box on Twitter and be like, has anybody had a better run?
That would be an amazing meme if you just found different movie groups around the internet and just posted the worst 4 films a big name person has ever done in a row. Just be like, has anyone ever had a better run? Right. I'll wait. You know what I mean? I'll wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mitch from the Video Vacuum did a really fantastic one of like the 4 movies that Wayne Newton did.
Yes.
So it's like The Running Man, and I can't remember like
License to Kill.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like, has anybody had a better 4 movie run than? And it was the 4 way. I was like, this is like he just kind of won the internet today. I think
Wayne
that's just
Newton, that's amazing.
Yes,
that's amazing. Wayne Newton. Has anyone ever had a better?
I think he may have buttoned it with the "I'll wait" as well. I think he did button it with the "I'll wait."
You have to, Matt. So you just have to say "I'll wait." But anyway. But then look. It's 2015 and he does Age of Ultron. Now, obviously Downey Jew has probably got his magic behind closed doors, but Spader's an interesting cat, man. We never quite know what he's going to do next, and what a riveting thing it is, because one of the things he chose to do, and this is really kind of where we've been headed, is a movie called Shadow of Fear in 2004.
Yes.
Now, what is utterly mad about this film? What the first thing that's utterly mad?
Because there's a myriad.
There's a myriad of things. But the bookend, the madness bookends. The what the fuckery supports at either side of this movie are this, Matt. How did the 3 people behind this movie, Rich Cowan, Matt Holloway, and Art Markham, get the cast that they got for this movie, which is James Spader, Aidan Quinn, Peter Coyote, Robin Tunney, Robert Miano, who is a very well-known character actor, obviously Shane the Dog, which was played by William Shakespeare. How did they get... No. How did they get the cast that they got, considering they were all... I think they're all more or less newbies. Rich Cohen may have produced other stuff, but... I think this is his first directorial. No, he had done a movie called The Basket previously, which The Basket, Shadow of Fear, and The River Murders. Has anyone had a better 3-film run than Rich Cowan? The Basket, which starred Peter Coyote. So that's how Peter Coyote got into this movie, right?
Like, hey, you really liked working on The Basket with me. You want to do
The Basket, Matt? Oh, this is great. It features Joey Travolta.
Of course.
And Ellen Travolta. It's got 2 Travoltas in The Basket. Maybe, oh my God, maybe Rich Cowan is like some sort of insane Scientologist director, and the Travoltas were just like, here, we'll give you a movie to make. We've got The Basket. And put our friend Peter Coyote in it. Maybe that's what happened.
It's got Karen Allen from Indiana Jones, and so is that? Actually, because we were talking about Donald Sutherland passing away, right? Because it was Karen Allen who didn't want to show her buttocks in the film. She was afraid, and he said, "Well, I'll show mine too. How does that sound?" And she was like, "Okay, now I'm in." And so very chivalrous.
As I say, the bookends of madness. It's first of all is how do you get this cast?
Right.
But the second of all is sort of how the film gets made at all when the script is what the script is.
Right. Who read this? So, because one of the things I remember seeing this thing on Instagram that was it was Ethan Hawke. They'll do like these vignettes of Ethan Hawke talking about The Craft, and it always kind of fascinates me listening. For whatever reason,
I've seen those. Yeah, Ethan Hawke talking about the craft of acting.
Whatever reason, the algorithm on Instagram is like, Matt, you want to see these? Because I guess because I watched one, and
I get them too, Matt. Don't worry about it.
You get So it's just if you like film stuff.
I want to watch Hawke talk about the method, the fucking craft.
But he was talking about how actors make the best directors because actors are always thinking about what a character's motivation is when directors are just like, let's get the scene in. And he was talking about like in horror movies when characters go down to the basement when there's some, instead of just running out of the house. And he's like, why wouldn't I just run out of the house? But he was talking about that, like they want to know their motivation. And I just see like a whole bunch of actors, right? Spader, Tunney, Coyote, whoever else, the kind of low poor man's Tom Brady that we have as the lead in this film. They're flipping through the script and they're like, what is my motivation? Like, none of this makes any sense. Right. Like,
and I think I am betting, Matt. I'm betting you that I think that this movie wasn't sold on the script.
Right.
I think this movie was sold on the treatment. I think there was probably a 1 or 2 page treatment for this movie that got everyone very excited, because it's a bit like that. You know how Pulp Fiction is basically a linear narrative, but the beginning and end of the movie is in the middle, and the middle of the movie is at the beginning and end. Everyone always goes, oh, Pulp Fiction, it's so twisty-turny. It's not. He took a narrative movie, put the beginning and end in the middle, and the middle at the beginning and end. That's it. That's it. The diner scene, if you played the movie chronologically, would be the middle of the movie. That's it. It's not complicated or weird, but everyone wants to give Tarantino props. Anyway, any opportunity to shit on that giant four-headed over... anyway, so...
the only thing I'll quickly say about Tarantino is he gave us, Pam Grier and Robert Forster and Jackie Brown.
I love Tarantino movies up until Kill Bill 1, and then I did like the Hollywood one.
Yes, I like that one. Yeah, I like his stuff. I like things.
But he's horribly, horribly over praised and over. Yeah. Anyway,
there's like an age group of people our age have this idea that Tarantino, Kevin Smith, and Robert Rodriguez are like Godard, like Ingmar Bergman, Kurosawa, and it's like, no, they have good movies, they have some good stuff, but there's so many other directors out there that, I could find a few Albert Pyun films that inspire me as much as some of the, but there's this mindset of like, well, this is what's great, these are the great directors, and it's like, no, you forget that. Like, you could, it's, yes, I think for me, like, the only thing that Tarantino has done, I love Pulp Fiction, but that goes into that kind of Bergman category for me is the stuff with Forster and Pam Grier in Jackie Brown. I'm just
and
like,
again, even in Jackie Brown, he can't help himself but sort of fucking ruin it, because the scene that would become the trailer, the bit where when you absolutely positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room except no substitute. That bit, right? Yeah. Which is, in any other movie, is a great scene. It's a funny scene. It's a silly scene. It's whatever. It completely spoils the atmosphere, mood, tempo, maturity. It spoils a lot of the... He just can't help himself but be like, oh, let me put a showy, verbose piece in this thing. And, I think of in Jackie Brown when he does the assassination of Chris Tucker at the beginning by Samuel L. Jackson, where it all plays in a one shot. And you see the car, you hear the music, you see the car pull away, the music fades as if the music is coming from the car. He takes him off into a parking lot, shoots him, puts him in the trunk, and then drives off. That's the pace that I think of in Jackie Brown, that slower pace. Those scenes, like you say, over breakfast at the dinner table with Pam Grier and Robert Forster, the scenes in the bail bonds office where Forster slows everything down and doesn't let Jackson dominate the scene. Like, it's played at Forster's pace. That's the pace I want that movie to be at. And that scene in the middle, or any scene really where Forster and Jackie are not on screen, for too long, those are the scenes that they're funny as a comedy sketch, but it doesn't fit that. There's a better movie in Jackie Brown. As good as Jackie Brown is, there is a much better, more considered, more mature movie in Jackie Brown than the Jackie Brown we have. I would love to do a fan edit, what I would call a 70s edit on it. Yeah. That's what I would like to do. It was at this point that Matt Perea and John Cross went on a massive tangent about TV shows, writing, all sorts of stuff that I just felt didn't fit this particular podcast. And also, I needed to cut something out. Otherwise, this would have run over 4 hours. And I just can't take that anymore. So I edited out this long section, but we're about to jump back in to the conversation again. Here we go. Thanks. I think to me, it's why I stick with movies over TV 90% of the time is because, and I know a lot of people are like, well, it's an attention thing. Maybe it's an attention thing. Fine. Look down on me because maybe I don't have a great attention span. But I don't think it's that. I like being told a story, but I also like being told a story by someone who knows how to end a story. And sometimes you just have to end a story. I know everyone is like, you do 2-hour podcasts about nothing. How dare you criticize people for not knowing how to end a story? But I'm just saying, in general, I like people to end a story. And so often these inflated TV series that are based on a treatment that would have been a great 90-minute movie but sucks as a 10-episode or 24-episode TV series just bang on and on and on and on and on and have to throw endless fucking obstacles in the way. And I'm like, listen, as bad as life is, it's not like every morning I wake up and there's yet another obstacle. Like, you know what I mean? There's only so many obstacles. As long as you pay your bills. Like,
right, yeah. So my wife and I were binging Scrubs because she watched Scrubs and she got me to watch Scrubs, which is, not horrible, but
Binging Scrubs was a great blues trumpet player in the 1930s. Binging Scrubs. Binging Scrubs and the Uptown Six. That's
right, from Philadelphia. He's got his own heritage plaque thing here in Philadelphia. Binging Scrubs lived on this corner here from 1890 to 1937.
And now, hip cats, we're very happy here at the Blue Note
Binging Scrubs
to introduce tonight Binging Scrubs and the Uptown Six. Oh, it's that Scrubs noise. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. You see like millennial hipsters just being like, so I just totally got the new Binging Scrubs album. Have you listened to Binging? So fantastic. I really love
Miles Davis is so passe. I love Binging. Have you heard of Binging Scrubs? Yeah. No, I have. I've heard of Binging Scrubs. No. But you haven't heard the Delta 78 sessions from 1942 that he recorded in a cafe in Lisbon. What are you talking about?
I'm waiting for the next Jarmusch movie.
There was a guy who I used to work with who was like that about, like you would name a band like Mumford & Sons or whatever, and he'd be like, yeah, I know Mumford & Sons, but you've never heard the bootleg of the show they did before they were famous outside a Clark's shoe store in Kent. And you're like, no, I haven't. Does that mean that I'm not a fan? Does that mean that I haven't understood the real true beauty of Mumford & Sons? That everything that they've put out that's made them a multi-platinum selling band, none of that is any good. I need to hear a grainy bootleg recorded on some audio tape cassette of them playing outside a fucking shoe store in Stoke-on-Trent High Street. Yeah, that's what I need. Thank you, Mr. Hipster Scumbag, for spoiling music for me. I've heard the Binging. Have you heard the Binging Scrubs Lisbon sessions? Get out of my face. Sorry, man.
We're like doing verbatim, I think, what the next Jim Jarmusch movie with whatever young actors he's cast in the movie. They're gonna be going to some convenience store that's run by like Bill Murray, and he's gonna be sitting there with his old doddering Bill Murray face. And what do you kids need? It's gonna be whoever from Dead Don't Die. What was it? Selena Gomez and Austin Butler. It's gotta have Austin Butler, right? Austin Butler wanders in.
He'll be talking like he'll moves like this, and you'll be like, Austin, please, just stop. Stop. Just stop. Everyone knows it wasn't your voice. Just take a deep breath and talk normally. Now let's get on with it. Yeah,
right. You got the new Binging Scrubs. I totally say it's it's going to be all Jarmuschian. In the
Jarmusch is basically going to remake Empire Records,
right?
And it's going to be Binging Scrubs Day.
Binging Scrubs, yes. it's going to be the next Jim Jarmusch movie.
And Binging Scrubs is going to be played by Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle, right? With like a pasted on gray beard.
Yeah, and like a Miles Davis slick back curly wig.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, he's going to play Binging Scrubs, and he only shows up for like 30 seconds in the final frame. Right. The whole thing's in black and white, and the waiter is played by Steve Buscemi.
Oh, I see. You got the
coming here to find Binging Scrubs. Eh?
Right. Yeah. Everybody comes here for Binging Scrubs. Tilda Swinton's just going to walk in and just be creepy.
Yeah, it's sort of it's the artist that Thora Birch and Scarlett Johansson would be listening to in Ghost World.
Right, exactly.
Is Binging Scrubs. You know what I mean? While being interviewed, Harmony Korine would state that he was the #1 fan of Binging Scrubs, but only liked the album that was recorded amongst some dumpsters in a fucking bathtub warehouse in Iowa where someone took a shit on a corpse. And then everyone would be like, oh, Harmony, you're so edgy.
Right. Well, we're watching like Jimmy Fallon doing this interview on the Tonight Show with Harmony Korine, who's just like melting into his seat, like trying to get anything of value out of him, and just like,
So, when we were last talking about the movie about a week ago, before the myriad of sidebars, that was just that was an Inception level of sidebars. That was sidebars within sidebars. Weirdly, though, Matt, considering my memory is, COVID fogged and generally as I've got older, not great, I remember exactly where we were when we were last talking about this movie. I was saying that I think that there was a really good treatment. Now, there is a podcast that everyone knows about called How Did This Get Made? Or Why Did This Get Made? How Did This Get Made, right? And the thing that annoys me about that podcast, apart from the fact that none of them seem to have very much film knowledge at all, and therefore it's sort of a frustrating listen.
Yes.
Except their series on the Fast and Furious franchise is great because obviously they're not going back and watching a movie that you and I know tons about, but they are just like, they're going like, why did this happen in the film? And you're like, well, I could tell you why if you would bother to like read up on the film, or why, whatever it is. But what they don't do very often on that show is actually talk about how the film got made. They don't even hypothesize about the show's called How Did This Get Made? And I understand what they mean is, this is the kind of film that you look at and you go, my God, who made this? But, they never really go into how did this get made. One of the things you and I and previously Jim and I used to love doing was hypothesizing to the best of our ability with the knowledge that we have how something like this, like Shadow of Fear, gets made. And I think, because between Matt Holloway and Art Markham, who wrote this, when you step away from this movie and stop thinking about, that's what I was talking about, like Pulp Fiction, right? So this movie plays a bit like Pulp Fiction in the sense that by the time you're halfway through, you're like, wait, what's going on? The first time you watch it, I mean.
Right, yeah.
And you're like, am I just being shown fever dream scenes of a man's life with no connective tissue and no explanation? There is at no point, by the way, in this movie, at no point is there exposition. Right. No, you're right. There was a scene or two where characters sat down with each other and said, this is how this began, or this is where Joe's from, or that's his daughter. Like, you've got little bits of information. But at no point was anything fully explained. It's not until you finish the movie, which, by the way, you don't finish the movie and go, oh, I understand it now. It's not like The Big Sleep where, it goes on and on and on, and then finally it's all revealed at the end. Right. There's no deft storytelling hand here. This is one of those movies that you watch, you then have to sit with for a bit, and then you go, okay, what actually was the plot? Yeah. And this is where I think the treatment probably would have sold this movie much better than the script. Yeah. because the treatment would have said something along the lines of wealthy, multi-generational town family, well-known town family, and local politician, etc., 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 comes under the thrall of weirdo local mastermind who has a group of a sort of Illuminati or Masonic style group of businessmen, dignitaries, mobsters, whatever, all of whom at some point in their life needed to get out of a crime, get away with a crime, get out from under a crime. And in order to pay for having that crime expunged, Spader has them continually perform that crime, but for his benefit. And they think for their benefit, but ultimately for their detriment. And he talks about, at a certain point in the movie, about, I have a financial guy and I have a car guy and I have a whatever, but I don't have a murderer. And you're my murderer, whatever it is, right? That's the kernel of the idea. This idea that your sin will become your master, essentially, but by continually sinning, your original sin, by continually sinning, none of your crimes will ever come back to haunt you. Yeah. But if you refuse to criminally behave, everything will come back to haunt you. That's an idea where you kind of go, oh, okay, like that's kind of cool and neat. I mean, when you start logically trying to unpick it too much, you're like, right, but wouldn't Spader, with every crime that people were doing, wouldn't Spader, for the benefit of someone else in the group, because everyone has to do a crime that benefits someone else in the group, right? So constantly the group is trying to look after itself, and if you pulled apart any one peg, it would all just fall apart. Right. And he would have to spend 24/7 monitoring all the movements of all these people. And then there's some tagged on ending where where weirdly they're like, and if you keep working for James Spader, he will fuck your daughter. And you're like, wait, what? At no point, at any other point in the film, was there any hint that Spader is going to be having sex with anyone. At the end of the movie, Spader's been like, look, I'm James Spader, right? I'm as unnerving as fuck. When you see me holding a teacup in this movie, your skin is going to crawl out of your toenails. Any remotely erotic feelings you have will leak from your ears down onto your elbows. But but at some point, all of this has got to be about Spader getting laid. What's funny, there's a list on Letterboxd called movies that hinge on movies that hinge on James Spader's dick or something like that. And it's all movies this person has watched where James Spader's dick is a core of the storyline. Not that he shows his dick, but the dick is his dick being touched by a woman is the main through line of the movie. You would be surprised, and the Letterboxd list is not very long. Having watched his entire career, you would be surprised how many movies that ultimately, when you finish the movie, you go, wait, was that entire movie just about him getting a man's daughter into bed? Yes. So, but basically what I mean by that is you can imagine that there was a treatment about this interesting concept that's sort of a kind of, if this came out in 1995, 96, and it sort of had indie sensibility, but it was also lovable schmo goes for a walk on the dark side with James Spader or whatever, you would go, okay, I get how this film was made. There was a lot of stuff, I'm thinking back when you go back through Spader's career and you see films, whether it's Dream Lover, whether it's White Palace, whether it's Bad Influence, whether it's Storyville, where they are sort of these thrillers that are sort of, there's some sex in them, there's some politics in them, there's sort of the dark underbelly, there's manipulation. They kind of have a lot of the same themes, right? And Keys to Tulsa even has a sort of, Spader is the ne'er-do-well and Eric Stoltz is the guy who's trying to kind of get out from under him or whatever. And so you can understand that, like, when Shadow of Fear, that concept comes across everyone's desk, they kind of go, okay, that seems par for the course for where I am in my career.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm a master manipulator. I get to hang out with a bunch of character actors. I get to fuck some daughters. This sounds great. You know what I mean? Like on paper, when you stand back from the movie. However, having said all that, nothing that I just said is readily apparent in the movie at all until you've watched the movie, stepped back from the jigsaw and gone, was this what was happening? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe. So everything I just said with assured confidence is really coming from a place of, Matt, is that the film we watched? Did I understand it? Because I don't know. Matt, what was your take on it, sir?
I think the treatment idea makes the most sense because it also felt like it was a script that wasn't proofread.
No one read this script. Like, right. I don't believe for a second that Sorry, I meant to put a capper on it. That's why I said about the treatment. If someone just handed you the script as the movie we watched, there's no way you would get what I got from it, from the script. Because the script is gobbledygook. I mean, the script is gobbledygook. I mean, unless the script was much longer and the director just hacked into it and made it nonsensical gibberish. But the script is baffling in the extreme. So you're right. No one read the script. No one proofread the script. No one read the script. No one anything. Everyone got on board because of the idea. That's what I'm saying. But do you think, from my interpretation of what we watched, because I don't think it's 100%.
No,
Am I right? Do you think, is that what was happening in this movie?
I think so. The thing I didn't understand at the end, I guess they were trying to say that, so we have this main character who's played by Matthew Davis, who I guess he did like Vampire Chronicles or something. Like he does TV shows now. I'd never heard of him before. He looks like a poor man's Tom Brady. And I don't want to make fun of anybody's looks, but he does have a bit of a protruding brow ridge, like possibly, signaling that he may have had some Neanderthal genes in his background. And the way he's shot, the way the cinematographer shoots him, he doesn't take into account that brow ridge. So he's just always got this shadow over his eyes the whole time. It just makes him look even angrier and creepier. But he's not a very likable character. And when he gets into bed with Spader, you almost wonder, like, why? Like, who would be dumb enough to get into bed with Spader for anything? Like,
well, so this was the thing. So a little on Matthew Davis quickly. So it looks like he's discovered by Joel Schumacher when he's making Tigerland, and he wants a bunch of like it guys to play the soldiers, right?
Yeah.
So he gets discovered with him. He does Pearl Harbor, similar kind of thing. He does Legally Blonde. That makes sense. He's kind of a Ken doll, bland kind of thing. Fine, put him in. Put him in Legally Blonde. He does Shadow of Fear. He does a bunch of other straight-to-video stuff like Steven Seagal's Into the Sun, Blood Rain. But yeah, so he does an Uwe Boll movie. But then I think, hasn't he sort of moved over now to basically doing, Vampire Diaries and CSI and he's now on a TV show called Legacies, or what? Sorry, no, he was on a TV show called Legacies. 2 TV movies in production.
Yeah, he's playing a character named Alaric, which I don't see him as an Alaric, to be honest.
But considering the high, considering the fairly large movies that he was in at the beginning of his career, Tigerland, Pearl Harbor, Legally Blonde, Blue Crush, I don't know, that's a big film, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's acting, if we say that he went quickly from the likes of those movies to the likes of a Steven Seagal film and an Uwe Boll movie, that says, in fact, that's a good trajectory, because that says all you need to know about his acting ability.
Right.
Is that he goes very quickly from, potential Hollywood A-list to fucking an Uwe Boll movie, in a few clicks.
Right. Well, because I think the people making the film, they thought he could be like a Peter Berg in The Last Seduction, but he's not a Peter Berg. He's not that kind of actor. He's not, he doesn't have that range that Peter Berg has to play, being Gladiator with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Brian Dennehy, and then be in Last Seduction with Linda Fiorentino.
Right.
And so because he doesn't have that range, the whole thing, like you said, it's like kind of the way this whole web that Spader is weaving could fall apart with like one piece moving apart. He's also this very flimsy foundation that the film is based on.
Flimsiest. You've no idea what he does for a job.
We don't know his job. Yeah, they talk about estates. Like, can you win this estate? You lose this estate. I mean, the one thing I completely forgot, because they don't make it that clear that he's hammered. But like, so when he gets into that car accident at the very beginning, he kills the guy in the road, which I guess if you're drunk, it's an issue. But on a pouring rainy night in the middle of the night.
Was he drunk? Was he meant to be drunk?
I think I forgot about this, but I guess in 2000.
The weird thing is the movie starts.
Right.
There's this whole thing about So this is the problem about talking about this movie. Is because first the movie doesn't start right. You're meant to know at the beginning of the movie that it's a Tuesday night regular gathering of this cabal of guys that Spader has that are doing this stuff. But that this particular character, while he comes, because his father-in-law goes to these events, he goes to the events, he's not allowed to sit at the table. Who knows why he's even at the event or why he's allowed to sit at the table or what the event is or what they do or whatever it is. Nobody knows what's going on. Everyone's drinking at a table. He's not. He's sat over on a chair by himself. We don't know any of this. I still, to this day, don't know why any of that matters. But anyway, Tuesday nights, all Tuesday nights, no matter what, they have a constant refrain in the movie. Tuesday nights, no matter what, rain or shine, blah, 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 kind of thing, right? So the movie starts, the credits are still rolling. Right. We see this thing, Spader says a few innocuous things. He then gets in a car, dark, rainy night, rain. Over which, as he's driving along, we hear Spader repeat the thing that Spader just said. And I'm like, wait, is that meant to be important? Because it doesn't, that sentence that Spader said, which is something like, always on a Tuesday night, we must obey the table or something. You're like, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what table or who James Spader is or even who this guy is. Within 30 seconds of the movie starting, this guy, this big-browed, big-chinned, nondescript, bland as fuck hairstyle with all the acting ability of a napkin, has plowed into a guy. The guy gets fly. I mean, it's comical. The guy goes he gets pinged by his BMW, and the guy flies off the screen. Right. We see the guy get out of the car, look at this dead body, hem and haw a little bit, drag it down into the mud and debris by the side of the road, cover it up in some branches, get back in his car, and drive away, right? That's the first thing we see. We don't know who this guy is. We don't know who Spader is. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know why Tuesday nights are important. We don't know what the table's going on. None of it. And by the way, we don't know, still, 45 minutes into the movie, what any of those things are. Right? So that's how the movie starts. And the whole point is, because later in the movie, and I'm just putting this together now, there's the scene where Peter Coyote and this bland guy are driving along after the funeral. Right. And Peter Coyote's like, I never wanted you to come here, and screaming about never wanted to come here. What he means is,
in other words, you get blackmailed.
If you come here, if you come to this town and live in this nondescript town that's never named, never mentioned, never talked about, there's hardly anybody there, whatever, this town, we only know it's Washington because you said it was filmed there, right? Washington State.
Yeah, so it's like a Spokane area. Yeah.
Right. We only know that the father-in-law is part of this nonsense much later on, after the father-in-law has already said, you shouldn't have been here, whatever. Yeah. But we don't know that at any point that he hasn't always been there. But we find that out. We don't find out anything in order of the thing that we need to find out in order to understand this movie at no point in the script. It's utterly, utterly infuriating and weird. But Matt, before we go further on through the plot, was this your experience of watching it, or were you understanding it more as you watched it?
No, it was, so I was starting to understand it as it was unfolding, that there's this, this blackmail ring that's run by Spader, and, you don't want to. But did you
read the IMDb description before you watched it, or? Okay.
No,
so you got that from the first 30 minutes of the movie?
No, I guess I got it when James Spader says, I can fix your problems for you.
Right.
If you've got a problem, I can fix it for you. I knew you weren't supposed to trust Spader. Now, I didn't know that it meant that, that he was blackmailing everybody, every famous, every rich person in the town. And that's how he controlled the town, was that he just blackmailed everybody by having dirt on them, by fixing problems. But I knew that he was not someone that you would want fixing your problems for you. Right.
Look, I understand that there are elites everywhere.
Yeah.
But is Spokane, Washington particularly
with
white
with
bread
debutante
elite?
balls? Yeah, with debutante balls and I mean,
if this was set in New England around sort of an Ivy League city or something, you would kind of go, okay, there are stakes.
Right, because it felt like Greenwich, Connecticut.
Right. It just I mean, even Greenwich, Connecticut would make more sense.
It's far from Seattle,
right?
But so Spokane itself, 200,000. I mean, then what would that be like in Pennsylvania? That would be maybe the third biggest city after Pittsburgh. But for Connecticut, it might make a big city in Connecticut. I think 100,000 might be some of the like Hartford's, it's actual, air, but it's like it's this isolated enclave on the eastern part of Washington.
But is Spokane, Washington, particularly like white bread elite though? I mean, Rhode Island or Massachusetts or something. I feel like this movie should have taken place in. Like if I don't know, if he was the governor of Rhode Island, sure, it would be small fry because it's Rhode Island, the smallest state or whatever. But it's at least a wealthy, posh state with mansions everywhere. And,
exactly.
There's probably like tennis clubs in Rhode Island that have dastardly deals and sexual intrigue happening behind the lace curtains of the little cabanas, right?
Exactly.
That you imagine to be a tennis club in Rhode Island. I don't imagine a tennis club in Spokane, Washington. Nothing against Spokane, Washington. I'm sure Spokane, Washington has its own dark, seedy underbelly. But Twin Peaks, this is not. You know what I mean? It's not even Blue Velvet. It's I mean, Lynch loves to do the dark, seedy underbelly, but this movie, this movie is like criminals in a cul-de-sac.
Right.
Meaning, like, if you've got a cul-de-sac, right, and you might have, let's say, 4 houses off the tip of the cul-de-sac, and then maybe 2 more houses further down the cul-de-sac. Let's say 8 houses in total. James Spader is like king of the cul-de-sac. I control these 8 homes. Now, the 8 homes happen to be like multi-million-dollar mansions, et cetera, owned by... Well, one of the guys, like Peter Coyote, is a congressman, right?
Right.
Here's the main problem with the movie. The main problem with the movie is that it should be about this cabal of businessmen who have been, or congressmen, or lawyers, or whoever, whatever they are, that have been enslaved by Spader to do his bidding, that have never been able to figure a way out of this situation because of an accidental death during a car accident by... this relative newcomer in town. He gets embroiled in this cabal, and through his involvement in this cabal, he figures out a way to get Spader, and then the cabal is free. Like that's the arc of that's the arc of the movie. Yeah. But that's not how the movie tells it to you. No. And in order for that to be the arc of the movie, you would need scenes in which the people in the cabal right now had got tired of all the things they were having to do in order to remain in the cabal and stay out of prison. You would need a sequence whereby, Peter Coyote and Robert Miano and some of these other guys, David Selby and whatever, who are in the cabal, sitting around discussing it. That scene happens, but it happens right at the very end of the movie, like within the last 10 minutes of the movie. But that means that the entire arc that should be the arc of the movie is essentially the last 10 minutes because you don't get the piece of information you need about the dissatisfaction until that scene. And that scene even comes after the scene where Peter Coyote in the car is being like, you should never have come here, never come here. Nothing leading up to that scene makes any sense because you needed that scene at the beginning of the thing. Like in Bad Influence, for example, which is the closest Spader movie to this. Spader plays the, mild-mannered, weak, yuppie guy who gets embroiled with Rob Lowe's charming con artist. We watch the nebbish go from, a mild-mannered schmo to having to find a way to get the better of Rob Lowe, right? And clean up all the mess. Like that's so you just following the one person, the one thing with Rob Lowe. Whereas with this one, you get the feeling that, well, there's a world trying to be built here, but it's never sort of successfully built, never sort of successfully explained. And it's not till, like I say, further on in the movie where you suddenly go, oh, wait, nobody wants to be in this situation. This isn't like an elk club situation where everyone's dibs in and they're all like looking after the local township or whatever, or even a Masonic thing where, okay, they might not be interfering with your life on a daily basis, but should you fuck up, they'll be there ready to give you a job at a much, better paid corporation or whatever. Yeah. It's not even that. It's like these... It's like he's king of the cul-de-sac. It's like these little small fry things. And then they're all just sort of sat around me like, well, we don't know how to get out from under James Spader's thrall. I'm like, well, I don't know. You're all like the leaders of industry in this small town. Did you ever think you could just get together, club him to death, bury his body and say nothing to the police? Like even the police chief is under Spader's thumb. It's like, well, just have the police chief shoot Spader in the face and get on with it. Like, so I guess, this movie is probably more interesting after you've watched it than it is while you're watching it, you have no idea. There's a whole scene where fucking his wife, Robin Tunney, finds the clothes that he did the murder in, right? Finds the dog chewing a muddy boot and is all like, oh, what is this muddy boot? And then puts it back in the gym bag she's already found with muddy clothes. And then later, you see her drive out and she throws the bag in the river. And you go to yourself, well, hang on a second. Okay. Does she know? I know he gets home that night and he goes, I killed a man with a car. And she laughs and blah, 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 blah. And then actually makes it look like that he hit a pole.
Right.
So we know she sends him off one evening to work or something. She says, be careful you don't hit more than a pole this time or whatever. Right. So we know for a fact she doesn't really think he's killed anyone. And this is before her brother is discovered dead and possibly is the guy in the embankment, right? Down the embankment, the dead body that he hit. Because that's another part of the movie where you're like, well, did he kill her brother or not? I'm like, well, all right.
Right, and did her brother rob a bank?
Right, did her brother rob a bank? And anyway, it gets very ridiculous, this movie. But she throws the clothes away, and what that made me go was, oh, okay, that's to tell us that they are the kind of couple that even if he had killed a man, and that's what she kind of maybe suspects he did, she will cover up for him because they're that much in love. Like, that's what I thought that scene was saying.
Yeah.
But then the movie doesn't play out like she finds out and then she's like his support and then they kind of go on the lam and they figure it out together and they're like, well, we could double cross Spader if we do this, this, and that. Like,
yeah, they don't do anything with it.
No, she just gets dressed up in a dress and almost fucks Spader. Like, that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing with the movie is it's like 70 minutes of buildup. And then, like I was telling you when you were watching it, you got to put on some goggles or something because then the loose ends start flying together for the last 20 minutes.
Right.
And it's like all over the place. And there is that sense when you get to that moment where it's like an hour and 10 minutes in of like, okay, I need to put my seatbelt on because they've got to wrap this up somehow. And it removes any suspense from the ending, right? Because it's
when it ends, you're just like, wait, that's the ending?
Right.
And then it's what's even weirder is it then has a tacked on ending that's done in voiceover only. That's how you know it was tacked on.
Right.
Where it seems to assume that the Matthew Davis character, who's hilariously called Harrison French, which is the... you can tell it's the screenwriter's first script because they're like, oh yeah, Harrison French. That's what people are called, right? Harrison French. You're like, no, nobody's called Harrison French. Right. Nobody. And if they are, fuck that guy. Right. Harrison French, if you're listening, fuck you.
Well, they have names like that. Like the guy who's cheating on his wife is Sawgrass.
Right.
They're Sawgrass, you know.
He doesn't have a first name. He's just Sawgrass.
Mr. Sawgrass is what, yeah. Yeah, they get names like that. I was trying to think what Aidan Quinn is, Detective Schofield. Yeah, it's like they just kind of pull.
Well, that was the other thing is James Spader's louche, Machiavellian, whatever he is, trust fund kid. William Ashbury. I'm like, okay, Ashbury, that, but again, that sounds like a New England trust fund baby. It doesn't sound like a Spokane, Washington manipulator. You know what I mean? And Harrison French just sounds like Harrison French sounds like a name. This is what Harrison French sounds like this. If, like, when I was a kid, I used to write comedy all the time with my best friend, John Wallace, right? We used to, but then you get to a point where you're like 14, 15, 16, where along with writing comedy and knowing that you can play and be silly and be funny and kind of mimic Monty Python and whatever else it was, you kind of go, right, but I'm 16. I want to be taken seriously, Matt. You know what I mean? I want to write some earnest music. I want to do some black and white films where I sit and look out of windows and smoke cigarettes. I did that. That was me. I'm owning it. When I was 16. I made movies where the character was like incredibly cool and smoked cigarettes and looked out of windows. I did that. Yeah. One of those movies when I was 16, pretentious, didn't know any better, was trying to get the world to take me seriously, despite how fucking hilarious it was that me, a ridiculous idiot, was trying to get the world to take him seriously. I would write a character called Harrison French. That's the name. It's like these writers were 16 and they were like, oh yeah, Harrison French. That sounds mysterious, adventurous, debonair, whatever. And it's, the biggest trouble is if you have a movie that's this like dense with sort of things you have to follow and characters you have to understand, you can't all be first timers. You can't all be novices on the production side. Yeah. You need someone to shepherd this and kind of go, you need to put this scene back here. You need to move that scene there. It was like it was edited. It was like they put all the scenes they wanted to edit in order on Post-it notes on a pinboard. And then one night the pinboard fell off the wall and some Post-it, not all Post-it notes, but some Post-it notes got free. Yeah. And they didn't know which one went where. And they just went, oh, fuck it. And just pinned it back up how they thought it went. That's what watching this movie is like, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. But they needed someone to kind of go, yeah, no, this is the story you're telling. You don't have eyes on the story you're telling. You just don't. Yeah. Because all this distractive bollocks about fucking his wife's younger daughter wanting to sleep with him in a really kind of
the younger sister,
oddly...
Lacey Chabert.
Yeah, like an ongoing joke where I'm like, is this a joke? Because this isn't a funny movie. And this is the other problem, is if you have a script like this where the idea in the script is slightly flirty, yet possibly kind of flirty in a sort of, she's 17, he's 25, like it's okay, kind of, question mark kind of thing, flirty way, but nothing ever comes of it. You need an actor and actress who can pull that off. You need actors who understand it. The trouble is this guy is a chunk of wood, and all this actress is, or female actor is someone who is going to be like, well, I have to be flirty, right, and sexy, so I guess that just means like thrusting my boobs in his face and winking a lot and saying dirty things. And it's sort of like, right, but that doesn't, when you're watching that as an audience in a low budget movie like this, that's not cute, funny, and sexy. That's creepy and ick and and do you know what I mean? Yeah. Also, it doesn't need to be in this film. Like there's the younger sister doesn't do anything but give me the ick factor. That's all it is in the movie. Yeah.
She had no reason to be in the movie. Lacey, her character had no part. The one thing I would say, I think we talked about this when we were messaging beforehand, is that had she gotten anywhere near Spader in this film, it could have cost her entire Hallmark movie career that she's carved out for herself, because they wouldn't have wanted any of that gross Spader sleaziness to infect their wholesome Hallmark Christmas movies.
I think it's I mean, I think what is so skin crawly about the ending of this movie is that that once Spader is done with Robin Tunney,
Right.
like if Spader lived in the movie, sorry to spoil it, Trey. Right. First of all, nobody watched this movie. Don't seek it out. Don't try and find it. It's just listen to the show. You don't need to watch this movie. All right. Never watch this movie. Never dig it up. Leave it where it is. We watched it so you don't have to. Me watching this once was 2 times too many. So, so don't worry. But yeah, Spader dies in the movie. If Spader hadn't died, after he had been with Robin Tunney, he would have been with Lacey Chabert. And for her, there would have been no turning back. It would have been straight to Skinamax rather than Hallmark. She would have gone straight the way of Lance. Oh, going back to the A-Team. Right. Lance Legault, who plays Decker in the A-Team, his daughter, Mary Legault, softcore porn actress. Yeah. So, Lacey Chabert would have gone the way of Mary Legault.
Oh yes, it would have been over for her, and so she's fortunate because she was, I think she was born in '82, so she would have been in her early 20s playing this 17-year-old. But at that time, she was coming off of like Party of Five, and I guess I don't know if she'd done Mean Girls yet, or that was coming for her.
Wait, she'd been in Party of Five?
Yeah, she was the youngest sister on Party of Five.
Was she like a fairly main role in it?
Yeah, she was So
again,
she was.
How did they cast this film?
Right? Yeah. No, so I mean, in her case,
I thought she was an unknown. I thought she was just some Spokane actress that they found.
Yeah, no, she was so. I mean, she did Mean Girls. That was her big role, which Mean Girls came out actually the year before this. But my hunch is kind of the same way that you were saying that Spader would have signed on to this without realizing that he was going to get Boston legal. My hunch is that she signed on for this, not knowing that Mean Girls was going to be this huge cultural phenomenon that but yeah, Party of Five was what she did before that. And it's interesting. Yeah. Cause if you go to her IMDb page, they don't list Party of Five because she was a big role, but she wasn't Neve Campbell, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Matthew Fox or Scott Wolf. So she wasn't any of those characters, and I guess because of that,
right.
But that was where she got her start. She was very young, of course, too. She was being the youngest sister. But she after Mean Girls, she starts doing those Christmas, those Hallmark Christmas movies. That's essentially all she does now is these Hallmark. And I think she does even the kind of the more religious ones. And I mean, I don't know that you could get into religious movies if you've got the Spader Sleaze attached to you. And you're right. Like if this movie had another 20 minutes to it, we're probably getting that at least like an inference to that scene of like maybe her being in his office and the door closing. Right. We're getting something like that there. I
mean, it's baffling to me, the cast in this movie, because the only guy, like out of the 3 creatives behind the film, Rich Cowan, Matt Holloway, and Art Markham, director and the 2 writers respectively.
Yeah.
Rich Cowan, prior to this, sure, he edits and directs The Basket, and he is an editor on a few other movies. Hard Vice, he's an editor on Hard Vice, which is a Shannon Tweed movie.
Right. Is that's the one with Sam Jones,
Sam
right?
Jones.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great one. Yeah.
So Laws of Deception, which is probably another softcore thing with C. Thomas Howell and Amber Smith.
Of course.
Directed by Joey Travolta. So there's the Travolta connection.
Yeah. I think that's a PM one, Laws of Deception. I think that's like the one that he made after Sweeper, if I'm right.
Did this guy come out of PM Entertainment?
He might have, now that you're mentioning it. I could be wrong.
He made a C. Thomas Howell Joan Severance movie.
Okay, so no. So it wasn't it wasn't PM. It was Peachtree or something. I'm trying to. There's another movie.
I had no idea that Joan Severance and C. Thomas Howell had been in more than one movie together.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it goes without saying, but yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's so he. I mean, I suppose sure, okay, he can maybe command a few B-listers or whatever, but like God, I mean, almost everyone. That's what I'm saying. I think the fucking treatment of this movie must have been amazing. And then look at the producers. The producers are basically is it Millennium?
Right. Avi Lerner.
Avi Lerner and Boaz Davidson and all those folk.
The crew that I guess apparently have had a falling out with Seagal, and he stopped making movies with them and started doing them with or created his own company or something.
But they're the team behind the Expendables.
Exactly. Yeah.
So odd that. I mean, just so odd, the history behind this movie. That's why, like I was saying to you, we were texting last night, and I was like, all these big Hollywood movies, even something as mad and guerrilla style as Apocalypse Now has hours of documentary footage and making ofs and commentaries and behind the scenes and everything like that. And it's wonderful. Of course, I want to know how those movies are made. But at a certain point, all Hollywood movies are made the same. You know what I mean? Right. And at a certain point, all actors are just going to be like, yes, it was very nice working with X. They're not going to tell any like true behind-the-scenes stories. I want a Mark Hartley, not quite Hollywood, Machete Maidens Unleashed, Electric Boogaloo, the story of canon films type documentary about just the making of Shadow of Fear.
Right.
Because I cannot wrap my head entirely around how this thing got made. Except that obviously its director, Rich Cohen, had sort of been, on the fringes of the industry, or at least within the sort of, B-list, C-list, independent studio type area of the industry for a handful of years before this came along.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, for the most part, is still with us that made this movie. And so I feel like you just got to...
Are you saying that I've just got to go out there and make this happen?
Well, I think I don't know. Well, no, I feel like Mark Hartley is someone who could maybe get his foot in the door, and he's just got to get those lamps up and the screen behind and the camera and just sit these people down and just be like, so let's start with you getting the script.
What if I just went on IMDb Pro and just worked my way down the cast list, emailing PR people and just seeing if anyone from this film, anyone, I would take Janie Sawgrass. I would take Shirley Brenner. If Shirley Brenner would talk to me, because I bet Shirley Brenner would have, stories.
Well, because I wonder if even like the screenwriters now are too big for you.
Well, so I was going to talk about this as well. So the other bookend. Right. The madness bookends. People will remember 7 hours ago I was talking about the madness bookends. The madness bookends to this movie is that Matt Holloway and Art Markham, who, by the way, are 80% to blame for how bad this film is. 80%. I think Rich Cohen, rather, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm surprised this movie is edited as atrociously as this movie is edited, considering he was an editor for 5 movies. Right. But I will say this for Rich Cowan. There are some shots in this film that if it wasn't on like grainy shot on video type thing, I don't know whether it's shot on video or whether it's like late stage TV film.
It's like it looks very much like this was like kind of one of those made for TV like Lifetime, but like that late 90s early 2000s made for TV Lifetime movie.
It has the same kind of grainy look as either a Lifetime movie or a softcore skin flick on Cinemax or whatever. And it looks like that. And so I'm guessing he just grabbed a crew from, whatever Hallmark Lifetime PM film was shooting there, and they were just like, oh, this one will do. Maybe it was the PM Entertainment crew, because PM Entertainment was sort of over by this point, and maybe they were just like the old PM crew that he worked with. Who knows? And maybe they were like, why are no cars blowing up? What's going on?
Realize Rich Cohen as a producer, he did The Ward, which was
John Carpenter's
John Carpenter,
was that made in Spokane? He's the one from Spokane, I think, right? Rich Cowan, isn't he from Spokane?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So I wonder if he...
Yeah, he was born in Spokane. He's known for The Basket, The Ward, and The River Murders.
Yeah. I wonder if this... It was, Medical Lake, Washington, USA. Yeah, so Eastern State... So, Eastern State, right? Spokane's Eastern Washington. So, so I guess if you need to get something done in Washington...
Yeah.
You call Rich Cohen, and he takes
Cohen,
care
baby.
of you.
Cohen, baby, will take care of you. And but yeah, look at that. He fucking edited a Shannon Tweed and a C. Thomas Howell. C. Thomas Howell, who weirdly at that point was almost the male Shannon Tweed. Like when C. Thomas Howell was in a movie, you're like, why is there so much sex in this movie? The last actor I want to see, faking cunnilingus on Joan Severance is C. Thomas Howell. But here I am watching it, and that's the turn my life has taken.
Yeah, he's got producer credits on a ton of DTV films. I might have to tag him at this point, because I mean he did Lies and Illusions, the film that Christian Slater did with Cuba Gooding Jr. Also Wrong Turn at Hot Tahoe, another Cuba Gooding Jr. The Ward, The Hit List, another Cuba. So apparently he did stuff with Cuba Gooding Jr. like as a producer.
Yeah.
And then he starts working with like Nick Cage and Travolta. He does I Am Wrath. With Travolta once. So he's worked. Oh no, because I was going to say he's worked with both Travolta, right? Because he did Joey Travolta, right? He edited Joey Travolta movies, and now he's working with John Travolta.
He was also the producer on a movie called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay. Which has got to be a laugh a minute. Written by Menachem Golan. Menachem, can we change the name of the movie? No, it must be Oy Vey, My Son is Gay. It's too funny. That is
Saul
mad.
Rubinek. Vincent Pastore talking about Sopranos. We got the Saul Rubinek. You got to have Saul Rubinek.
If you're making a movie called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay, yes, you have to have Saul Rubinek.
Get Saul on speed dial. Carmen Electra. So they. Wow.
I just feel like there was probably, like, I know I've said this before, but I would so much more have rather hung out on DTV sets than Hollywood sets. DTV sets have got to be way more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Than Hollywood sets.
Yeah.
So I think I want to speak to Rich Cohen. Let's see if I can get Rich Cohen on the blower. But no, so the miraculous thing about Matt Holloway and Art Markham, and the thing that I just this is the missing link of B movie stuff. The next thing they are credited as writing is 2008's Iron Man. Now, look, what do we know about Iron Man that Jon Favreau always says? He always says there was no fucking script. We started shooting before there was a script. And that me, Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges, and other cast members who were also creative came up with the script as it went along. And what's interesting about that, Matt, if you allow me a little hypothesis right now, I have stated already that I think this movie, Shadow of Fear, was sold off the back of a really good idea in a treatment that they just could not then communicate in script form. I think the same goes for Iron Man. I think they had an idea. I think after everyone went nuts for the treatment of Shadow of Fear, but before the movie came out, they were already taking meetings based on the Shadow of Fear treatment. And they were taking meetings with some action sci-fi movie that they wanted to make with a treatment for Iron Man, but it wasn't Iron Man at the time. It was just a treatment for like a sci-fi action DTV kind of thing, right? And then someone went, these kids have got it, and then made the script Iron Man. And when it got on Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr.'s desk, they were like, there isn't a movie here, but we can turn it into something, right? That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What doesn't make sense to me is that this, if that's the chain of events, that makes sense to me. But we know that's not true because this comes out in 2004, is it? This one comes out?
Right.
And Iron Man comes out in 2008. So by the time Iron Man is being written, like let's say in 2006, 2007, this movie's out. People have seen this movie. Someone needs to, because they're like, oh, we've got this great spec script from Matt Holloway and Art Markham. Let's see what they did before.
Right.
No one sat down and watched Shadow of Fear and went, give these guys a blank check to write Iron Man. No
Yeah.
one. They would have been
Right.
like, get these guys away from Iron Man as fast as humanly fucking possible.
Yeah, it makes no sense that when people talk about failing up, I mean, because it is, you're again talking about these 4 movie arcs, right? Shadow of Fear, Iron Man, Punisher, Warzone, and Transformers. The last night, like who, you know, and then of course after that they're doing Men in Black, they're doing Uncharted. They've got the Craven movie that's coming out this year, which I mean. Considering how Madam Web went, maybe Craven is as bonkers. Like maybe like as much as Madam Web became this like, you know, like a phenomenon of bad movie-ness, or however I want to say that. I mean, what if Craven is even worse?
But didn't
like,
Uncharted have a big to-do? Like it wasn't released forever and it was considered a terrible fucking movie. And
I think so, maybe, right? Yeah.
So what's funny about this is this, right? So Punisher Warzone, I almost entirely forgot they wrote Punisher Warzone. Punisher Warzone, a lot of Punisher's fans' favorite Punisher film.
Yeah.
But I am so willing to bet, and I've listened to the commentary on Punisher Warzone, and I have an idea that Lexi Alexander did a lot of fucking rewrites on Punisher Warzone. I really do, because I remember listening to a commentary with her, and I was like, because that's another thing people don't realize, but you know, Punisher Warzone actually directed by a woman.
Right. Yeah.
Again, why we should let more women direct action films, because they'd just be brutal as fuck.
Well, the Gardener, the Gary Daniels movie, is co-directed by a woman. Yeah.
But I've got a feeling, and I'll have to listen to the commentary again, but I think in the commentary of Punisher Warzone, she basically says that she like put a lot of work into the script. I'm almost entirely that's the case. So So again, the thing is, right, Shadow Fear, fucking terrible. Iron Man, no script, Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges had to basically make it up as they went along, right?
Yeah.
Punisher Warzone, I'm pretty sure, someone will check me on it, but the director basically rewrote the movie as they were going on. Transformers The Last Night, I don't know the Transformers franchise, but forgive me if I'm wrong. Isn't that the one that's considered like the worst of all the Transformer films?
It could be. I don't think I've seen any of them, so it could be. It definitely could be. It came out in 2017, so that makes sense, right? Because didn't they go on a large hiatus from making those movies for a while, and they finally came? I mean, which you think about it from Paramount's standpoint, right? They have like 3. They have 3 main franchises, right? That they've got Star Trek. They've got Mission Impossible, and they've got Transformers. And so to say for one of them, we're just going to take a break and not do any for a while, probably meant that this was like, it wasn't very good.
Men in Black International was by far the most attacked film of the Men in Black franchise. Like, I think that bombed, right?
Yeah.
And then Uncharted had a really, really rocky production. So this is, again, a question I understand where with actors and writers and directors that like they can get away with maybe 2, maybe 3 flops, and then they either have to have a hit or they go to DTV, right?
Yeah.
How is it these writers, I've got to believe, Matt, that these writers are part of a shadowy Hollywood cabal that meet on Tuesday nights, and that Shadow of Fear is really, that James Spader is the king of Hollywood. Okay, wait, Matt, I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
No, wait, this is spooky. Because in Shadow of Fear, forgive me if I'm incorrect, James Spader makes these criminals redo their crimes for others' benefits, right?
Yeah.
And won't let them out of this loop.
Yeah.
These guys, Matt Holloway and Art Markham. Now I'm understanding why they called him fucking Harrison French, because his name's Art Markham. Well, we don't have a character called Harrison French. I'm like, all right, Art Markham. Anyway, Matt, their crime is they're not very good at writing screenplays. So because Spader is the king of Hollywood and pulls the strings behind the scenes with his clammy, moist hands, just pinching at the strings. Like, oh my God, Matt, I'm having such a like everything is connected here.
It makes sense now.
Because in Age of Ultron, Spader sings "There Ain't No Strings on Me," and he's the puppet master. Anyway, I think Spader's looked at them and gone, look, I was in your first movie. Your crime is you're not very good screenwriters. I want you to continue to be not very good screenwriters. And every time an executive comes along who's like, these guys are not very good screenwriters. And Spader's like, why would you think that? And they go, because we have ears and eyes. And Spader would go, okay, have them like die in a car wreck or have them like, disappeared in the Las Vegas desert or whatever. He'd have them bumped off, or he'd have them shipped off to like regional soap operas, like soap operas they make in like Detroit and fucking Buffalo or whatever, right? Local soap operas. Like he has the executives like shipped off, like the Catholic Church ships child molesters around the country. He's just pinging executives who come along and go, I think Art Markham and Matt Holloway are a bit shit. And he's just like, fuck it, you're going to go off and produce a reality TV show in Bangor, Maine. But he keeps them repeating their same crime of writing shitty scripts. Come on, Matt. Have I not just...
I think you nailed it. I think you yes. And just to kind of take it a little bit further, in the trivia for the Transformers one, that Transformers movie, it didn't quite do 3 times its budget, because I think that's supposed to be like the hallmark. It made like $600 million on a budget of like $230 million or $217 million. So it's like it didn't do so bad, but I think it's like you said, it was like people didn't like it. But apparently Matt Holloway is a fan of Downton Abbey. And he jokingly said that Jim Carter, who played the butler, I guess, on Downton Abbey, should voice Cogman. I don't know who Cogman is in the movie. But when he was shocked when he found out that Michael Bay got this Cogman character, a person to get Jim Carter to do this Cogman character. So Downton Abbey, he's like, he's thinking of characters in Transformers movies as Downton Abbey characters.
No, but that's wonderful. It's like the whole thing is like it's upstairs, downstairs, but with Transformers. Wait, haven't I made that joke before?
I don't know.
No, Matt, I'm getting a creepy Matrix vibe. I'm getting a creepy deja vu Matrix vibe.
I don't remember if it was Transformers. I think you said it was upstairs, downstairs, but it was something else. I don't think it was Transformers. I think it was something else.
Can you imagine upstairs, downstairs, Transformers? And he's like, Optimus Prime is like, oh my God, Lady Markham, I can't believe you've spilt all the marbles. Oh, I was playing croquet with Biffings and Toddy. We were listening to the jazz stylings of Bingeing Scrubbs. We're going to have him play at the tea party next week. Oh, that sounds lovely. Wait, what is that? Is that the guns of war? Oh, my goodness. With war hanging over this stately home, how will this show get any more tedious? I fucking hate I love that people love Downton Abbey, and I love that it sort of gave England another little boost in America, whatever, because it became like the latest thing. But, God, I hate those fucking... Oh, well, we're rich. Oh, well, Lord Loverducks, we're poor. Oh, and the war's coming. Oh, is the war coming? Anyway...
But this is the kind of stuff that Matt Holloway is part of the writing
sitting
team.
Around watching.
He's turning Transformers into that. Like, that's what he wants Transformers to be.
That's Transformers... Optimus Prime is Lord Lubberduck in upstairs, downstairs.
The next movie is going to be like a period adaptation of Ford's Parade's End or something like that, with like the Transformers all dressed up in their World War II era outfits and stuff.
Well, actually, when writing Transformers Go to Camp, the 18th installment of the Transformers franchise, I was highly inspired by the Derek Jacobi starring I, Claudius from the 70s. What? Yes, I like to see fucking Bumblebee as Claudius. All right, you've gone mad. You've gone insane. Yeah, when I was writing Craven the Hunter, what I was really thinking of was hang on, Jeremy Irons in the adaptation of Brideshead Revisited.
Because because only Matt Holloway is going to think, right, Craven and Evelyn Waugh, right? Those two go together.
He's gonna be like, when we write Uncharted 2, I'm basing it very heavily on Jennifer Early's version of Pride and Prejudice. Colin Firth in that film is absolutely magnificent. And I would love to get Colin Firth to voice an anthropomorphic ostrich character that we've decided to call Leonard Charlie. What are you going on about?
But what's going to happen is Craven is going to come out and everybody's going to be like, what in the hell is Craven? Like we thought Madam Web was bad, but we're going to know why Craven is so bad because we're going to watch it. We're going to be like, oh, no, look at that. That's Benedict Cumberbatch. No, it makes sense.
Dude, we'll come back 10 years from now. And then what are they making? They're making a movie about every 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Right now, every 2 or 3 years, because Spader will not let them stop. There was a gap between Punisher Warzone and Transformers The Last Night of 9 years. Yeah. I didn't notice that.
Right, so they were like kind of...
What else? What was he doing during that time? Oh, wait, they weren't. Like, it's not like his other stuff, additional crew and producer. They're a producer on Uncharted. Wow, Spader's even got them as a producer credit, which is just so erroneous. He's like, it's time we enter you into your executive producer phase.
I mean, is it possible that Spader is the one who's feeding them these ideas? Like, no, you're going to base a Transformers character on a character from Downton Abbey, and you're going to tell people in the interview that you watched but I don't watch Downton Abbey. Yeah. You watch Downton Abbey now. That's part of your penance.
No, but him having to say that he watches Downton Abbey is part of what he's having to do in favor to someone else in the cabal. Like, and I don't know if anyone listening is going with this because they haven't seen Shadow of Fear, and maybe you need to have seen Shadow of Fear to really understand this. But we're saying, there's a malicious group. Spader is the kingpin. He's pulling the strings on all the stuff. And if, let's say, someone who gets caught for fraud has to keep perpetuating that fraud so that businessman B can get rich or whatever, and vice versa. And then businessman B has to allow his hitman to kill so-and-so so that the guy is doing the fraud. Like, everyone's helping each other out by having to do that crime over and over again. And so what we don't know is maybe like Cusack. I haven't watched. Oh my God, I'm watching Cusack and Spader next week in True Colors. But maybe it's because of they've never been in another movie together, right? I don't think. Right? He's not in. Cusack doesn't crop up for a bit in Lincoln, does he, or something? No, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
So Spader, after True Colors, I'm going to find this out next week, Matt, when I watch True Colors. But he's like, no, Cusack, you've had your time. And that explains Cusack's ever slowly falling from grace and descent into madness. Spader's probably the one that made James Wood go weird. You know what I mean? And James Woods, he's like, you've done far too many liberal things, Jamesy boy. I need you to now be an insane, mad, right-wing person. And Woodsy's probably sat at home being like, you've lost me my career, you've lost me my credibility, you've lost me everything. Do I really have to? Because, Woods made I don't know what the comment was that Woods first made that set him on the trajectory. But that was his first crime. James Woods' first crime was being like, well, I think Mexicans should go back to Mexico or something like that. He made some statement that you're like, well, it's kind of like a racist uncle, but whatever.
Right.
But then once he'd done it once and been canceled for it, Spader showed up and is like, you have to keep doing that crime now. You have to keep being a disgusting, predatory, racist bigot. You have to just keep doing that now forever. And he's going to be like, but people love me from when I used to do like super liberal movies and work with Oliver Stone and do movies that talked about the dangers of prison system and illegal marijuana and stuff like that. No, Jamesy, that was former you. What? So I'm going to be reduced to ranting garbage on Twitter about Donald Trump. Yeah, that's and having to weirdly walk around with a disgustingly young wife. Yep, that's James. That's exactly what you're going to do, and I've got to do that for the rest of time. Yes, it's all intertwined, Matt. I could find, if you find that point where someone in Hollywood, when Kevin Spacey, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Kevin Spacey, we used to love it. We were like, he plays creepy really well. Now when you see Kevin Spacey, you're just like, oh no, Kevin Spacey was just creepy. Right? It wasn't that he did it really well. It's just that, like, I saw Kevin, and I know he's been acquitted or whatever, but like there was an interview he did with The Guardian, I think, after he was acquitted. And I couldn't watch more than a minute of it without being like, oh dear Christ, you are just, damn it. Like you are just so... There's no way with a straight face that you can play the victim. Right. I see behind your eyes that you are an insidious fiend of the highest order. Whether you did the things that you're accused of or not, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when I look in your eyes, Kevin Spacey, you are an insidious fiend and I want nothing to do with you. It's like, remember, there's a tipping point, and I kind of like this. There was a point in Mel Gibson's career where you'd be interviewed, you'd be like, oh, it's charming, funny, sexy, quick-witted Mel Gibson. And then slowly it was like, oh, it's a bit unnerving how he sort of nervously laughs all the time and how he like quickly says stuff that you think, wait, was that a racist thing? I think I described it recently. Was it with you that Mel Gibson looks like a man constantly holding back the demon? It was because we did the Lord of the Rings, yes. I want to say a racist thing. No, you can't say a racist thing. You know what I mean? The two faces thing. Mel Gibson is like that. There was a point where Mel Gibson went from like, oh, it's Mel Gibson, great, to being, and it was long before the Sugar Tits thing. It was like the Sugar Tits thing. By that point, you were like, yes, Mel Gibson's insane. Right. But it was the Passion of the Christ, maybe Mel Gibson or whatever. There was a certain point where you're just like, oh, that switched off. That's when Spader gets involved.
Another one is Gina Carano, where she made like some offhanded jokes about people using pronouns and thought she was funny making fun of pronouns. And I wonder if Spader's like, okay, that's it. You're in. Now you've got to start comparing COVID restrictions to Nazi Germany, and you've got to keep pushing until Disney fires you.
Right.
And that was because the only thing that makes sense when you've got the career that she had going for her,
yes,
that you would screw it up so badly.
Yes.
It makes much more sense to know that Spader was forcing her to do that than it was she just was dumb enough to make 100%. These comments on Twitter.
Well, there we go. So we have convinced ourselves. It's funny. I love, Matt, we're both storytellers, and I love how we contrive to have a story arc to each of our episodes. Right. The Hollywood Video one still being my favorite. But the story arc here was, we started thinking that Shadow of Fear was a garbled, messy, badly edited, badly written, confusing pile of what the fuck sauce. Sorry, no, a confusing pile of what the fuck laundry, right? And we have concluded that no. Right. Shadow of Fear is actually the blueprint that lays down James Spader's Machiavellian puppetry of the entire Hollywood system.
Yeah.
I mean, what an arc, Matt.
Yeah.
What an arc.
But it's the thing that makes the most sense, right?
You said that with such a straight face, it was delicious. You were like, yes, but it's the thing that makes the most sense. Just think about that for a minute. What makes most sense about any of the stuff that we're dealing with in the world? Because it could go further than Hollywood, Matt.
Oh, yes. It's the idea of Spader blackmailing people to be this ridiculous. it makes so much more sense than anything else that I mean, think about like climate change deniers, right? Where it's like, here are your choices, right? It's that all of these scientists and all of their peer-reviewed articles, they have a conspiracy to tell us that the planet is warming just, erroneously, and that the billionaire oil companies... Because they want
to sell us big wind.
Right. While the billionaire oil companies are exposing this insidious conspiracy that's run by all the thousands of climate scientists.
Right.
Or maybe it's just that these billionaire oil companies are trying to obfuscate things because they want to keep making billions of dollars. And then, but it's like, for people to believe the first thing, to be dumb enough to believe the first thing.
Yeah. Well, you have to have a mouthpiece like a Fox News that's going to parrot the nonsensical gibberish that people will then listen to and buy because it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And then suddenly it becomes as valid a talking point as the other scientist thing. Because so Spader would have to be pulling, all of the strings for all of the news broadcasts and everything. I mean, we're basically living in a Spader-style world. We're basically living in a kind of Spader Matrix style world that is culminating in, we are getting to a point where Spader will basically become Thanos.
Right.
Because Spader will look at his creation, and make no mistake, Matt, I think we've both realized we are in Spader's creation.
Yes.
Right? And we all know that creation is sex.
Yeah.
And so therefore we are in Spader's sex. Somewhere in Spader's, we are in his web of fluids. So somewhere at a certain point he's going to look down at us and go big, based on my trying to level everything out, based on my being like, well, if the murder's over here, as long as murdering people that at least benefit these people over here who are doing fraud, and that is benefiting these people over here who are destroying the environment, but that's benefiting. Do you know what I mean? Right. He will have been trying to balance everything off, but you can never balance that, Matt, and it's caused such violent division between both halves of the world. Spader Thanos is going to have to click his finger and get rid of 50% of us. And he doesn't know right now. The only reason we're still alive in this Spader Matrix of his own creation that is possibly fueled by his fluids. Let's just say that. I'm saying that those gloopy pods that we're all sleeping in the evil Matrix Spader underworld are all strung together with Spader's jism. That's what I'm saying. To quote Bill Hicks, roping arcs of jism. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So because he sees, we're only hanging on because he's looking at everything and going, I don't know which side, when I click my finger, I want to get rid of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's like, well, if I keep one side, that's mad. I mean, without another side to attack that particular side, if I keep the right side, right?
Yeah.
Without a left to attack mercilessly and bully mercilessly, they will turn in on themselves and eat themselves. So no good can come from that, because nature abhors a vacuum. So if you remove the thing that's antagonizing them the most, like if they woke up tomorrow and all LGBTQI plus people didn't exist anymore, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They'd be like, wait, what? What? What do you mean all the Mexicans have disappeared?
Right.
What?
Wait.
I don't know, but who am I angry at now? So they would have to figure it out. And if he kept the other side, it would just be a lot of twee people sitting around discussing. They would never make anything. Nothing would ever get created, because they would put a script down in front of someone and someone would be like, you can't make that joke. You can't say that thing. You can't wear those clothes. You can't go to that place. And and everyone would be discussing things in such a way as to not possibly offend anyone whatsoever, and tripping over their tongues. And ultimately, everyone would just end up sitting quietly. No one would have any sex, and we'd all die. That's what would happen. right? So neither side has a good place. The only thing to do is to bring us all back together. But he is too deep in now, Matt. And
Spader can't do it.
We are too deep in. Spader cannot do it. No. But you're right, Matt, when you say it's the only thing that makes any sense.
Because, I mean, this movie, it's like, I feel like you can make the joke about, bad movies that, this is like textbook, like how not to make a movie.
Right.
But it's like, this movie, it's like there are just all these pieces. It just never seemed to go anywhere. But the other thing too is we have a main character who's not good, no. and I also wonder about that too with Holloway and Markham. Like, did people look at that and say, can you imagine what kind of Iron Man we would have gotten without the rewrites? Right. So, I mean, that Iron Man, that movie is transformational in comic book movies, right? I mean,
what if we move Iron Man up to Spokane? And we make Iron Man a wealthy landowner. And maybe we cast James Spader. It is weird, though, dude. Spader and Downey Jr. being so tight.
Right.
And Spader having starred in this movie right before Iron Man with these two fucking chimps writing it. And do you think that he was like, not only am I...
He was sipping a small cup of coffee... When Robert Downey Jr. calls and he's sipping this and he goes, I have just the guys to write your movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I'm going one further, dude. I'm saying Spader ensures Downey Jr.'s casting.
Right.
Because no one was casting Downey Jr. at the time.
That's a good point. That's a great point. And wow. So I mean, Spader, that's how Spader ends up in Age of Ultron.
Oh, Age of Ultron is the whole conspiracy coming full circle, my friend. You better believe it. Yes.
Yeah. It's almost like an unofficial sequel to this movie is Age of Ultron. Right? Forget being an Avengers Marvel movie. It's a sequel to Shadow Play.
Yeah. Shadow of Fear.
Or Shadow of Fear. Shadow Play. I don't know what I'm telling you. I don't know what
Shadow Play sounds like a Shadow Tweed movie.
Yeah, I think that might be a Cuba Gooding Jr. movie that the director
produced. Okay.
Produced, maybe. I think that's how I got that.
Everyone thought when Age of Ultron came out that Downey Jr. was like throwing Spader a bone.
Right.
Like Downey Jr. had got so big that he was just putting his Brat Pack friends in his movies now. But that's not the case, because it's not like it's not like Andrew McCarthy cropped up in a fucking Marvel movie, or fucking
Demi Moore wasn't in a Marvel movie.
Demi Moore. Although
Rob Lowe.
So Anthony Michael Hall is in DC's Batman, I think, but he's still not in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
But it's not like Downey Jr. was doing it. We now know it's the other way round. Spader was in Shadow of Fear. Spader made these guys write Iron Man. Spader gets Downey Jr. cast in Iron Man, right? And then years later, Spader comes back to play Downey Jr.'s nemesis.
Yeah.
Also, in Age of Ultron, Downey Jr., I mean, it's terrible writing in Age of Ultron, because basically Downey Jr. just goes, oh, look, we could make this big evil robot shield that would encase the world and do all our jobs for us. And one person goes, I don't think we should do that. And he goes, fuck it, we're doing it. And that's like the whole the whole movie, the only reason Ultron exists. But it's Downey Jr. that brings Spader into life in that movie. And so I think, Matt, we have uncovered a corner of Hollywood that was hitherto uncovered. And sometimes you need to draw deep into the Spader well for Shadow of Fear to make that happen. And we made that happen.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
It is the only thing that makes sense. And I think it is the only thing that makes sense. I love, by the way, the whole Spader conspiracy. That's that is just a joy. So, you know how everyone says about these great worst movies of all time? Troll 2, The Room, these kind of things. Like, really, they just go, these are the worst movies of all time. They're badly made, blah, 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 blah. A lot of those movies that people cite were either very low budget, very independent. They were the first thing the person had made. They were first attempt that eked out by kind of, willpower and spit and sawdust kind of thing. And they, just by sheer force of will, they ended up getting screened, right?
Oh.
Well, I can never consider that a bad movie.
Yeah.
100%. I just can't. Like, a bunch of people you've never heard of got together, made something, and now it's on your TV.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't mean, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And sure, are they bad? Like, yes, but they are bad for lots of reasons that are understandable, forgivable, explainable, and maybe there's the nugget of an idea in that movie that you're like, well, we understand where that came from, right?
Yeah.
Something like this that has such, not pedigree, but it has a really strong cast, has a director who's been on film sets for ages, and it has at its core a really good, strong idea. This has no business being as terrible as it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the occasional great shot, like the elevator shot with Tunney up front and Spader in the background and the rack focus from the two and the shot of Aidan Quinn, who we didn't even talk about, but Aidan Quinn basically acts like he's in he's shot. It's so weird. The film color seems to change because every scene that he's in looks like a 1970s French detective ennui film. Like, right. I am Detective Ennui and I stare out of windows and I talk about the human condition. Right? Every scene he was in, I'm like, he's got 70s hair. He's wearing like a 70s suit and the whole thing is filmed. Like, I bet I could make a good movie out of this film. I bet I could. Because I think it's a question of editing and maybe shooting a couple of extra scenes. But there are some shots in the film that are really nice. I will give it that. There are some shots in the film where you can go, okay. Oh, Matt, the dance sequence.
Yes.
Dude, that's the Downton Abbey that's the
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they have
we missed it.
Yeah. So they have a cotillion, right? Do you know is that what it is? Like a cotillion or a prom or what is it? Well,
it's like it's a debutante ball. So it's like,
but it's something that the hoity-toits do, right? It's not for everybody. It's just for the
exactly.
It's just for the posh folk, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this makes so much sense. This makes so much sense that this plays like a bad Downton Abbey episode. But at one point, in every BBC costume drama, whether it's Pride and Prejudice, or any of the ones we met, Wuthering Heights, fucking Lady Chatterley's Lover, Jeremy Irons in Brideshead Revisited.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. In every single one of those things, if it's set between, 1800 and 1935, if it's set in any that 130-year time period, there will be an overhead shot of a ball where every single person knows exactly how to dance.
Yes.
And they'll do a lovely dance, and the TV series or the miniseries or the movie or whatever it is will stop for a minute because here comes the gowns and suits dancing sequence. It's in every single costume drama from here to Christmas. It just is.
What they don't tell you, of course, is that these men learn this dancing style by getting beaten and sexually molested at Eton for 5 years, and that's how they learn. And they come out of it learning how to dance and quote things in Latin.
Yes, right. At Oxbridge. At Oxbridge, they were buggered senseless with a row.
Exactly right.
I recently watched Oxford Blues, by the way, with Rob Lowe going to Oxford in England and cons his way into the college because he wants to sleep with royalty. It's fucking ridiculous. I'm Rob Lowe. I want to go from America to England to fuck a princess. Yeah, Rob, because that's how that works. That's literally the plot of that movie. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shadow of Fear. Oh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Shadow of Fear has a sequence where they try and do.
Right? Yes.
But the dancing, Matt, was so sloppy.
It was a mess. It was a mess.
It was so ambitious for a movie like this.
Yeah. It was. Right?
It was the one bit where they flew so close to the sun. They were just like.
But I completely, it never crossed my mind that it was Hallowell with his like love for like BBC period pieces and yeah. Just
Wait, did Downton Abbey start before this? When did Downton Abbey start?
Oh, good question.
Because that might put a wrinkle. Well, no, because he likes Downton Abbey, he probably also likes Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, all these other
Right, exactly.
Right?
So it says 2010. Yeah, it says 2010 for Downton Abbey. But I mean, he's queuing up like Alistair Cook's like masterpiece theater, like 10-part series on Nicholas Nickleby or whatever. He was just eating that stuff up.
Nicholas Nickleby. He's just sat there being like, I love the drama between the haves and the have-nots. It's so now. You're like, it's not now. It's been forever thus. Anyway.
He took Spokane, Washington and turned it into like 18, Victorian England or something.
Saying that British costume drama... Wait. Wait, in this world that this Spader Matrix that we're living in, he has contrived that the movie that is the blueprint for his grand design,
right.
Only so atrociously edited, no one realized until now, right. 20 years later. It's the 20th anniversary of this movie, man.
Yeah.
We're the only two fuckers who have ever watched it.
Yeah, it has 4 critic reviews on IMDb. Like even Ebert didn't touch it. It wasn't screened for Roger Ebert.
Fucking watched it.
Right.
Emmett Walsh wasn't in it. If Emmett Walsh was
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, why doesn't it have Emmett Walsh? Of all the people to not have in this movie, like, wouldn't he have been the sheriff? Like, instead of like the melty
well, he's in the music of chance with Spader.
Right, yeah. But this is like, he would have been the perfect like police chief in this.
Probably loved the music of chance. He was probably all over that shit.
Right.
But no, so there's this weird, British costume drama. Oh,
yeah.
This makes so much sense, Matt. Okay. Oh my goodness. Doesn't this make so much sense?
It does. It makes it so either Matt Holloway is so into British costume drama that he had to put it in the movie, or Spader made him put it in the movie as part of his penance, or maybe because
but as part of the evolution of this never-ending story that Spader has forced us to exist in.
Right, exactly. That's all. Like I wonder. I mean, I have to go back and watch Iron Man now and see where the British costume drama influences in there, right? I mean, get it like.
Well, isn't there that sequence where they go to a like hoity-toity club and they dance? Doesn't Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow, don't they have like a big elegant dance at some point in that movie?
That's right. I didn't even think of that.
Or is that in part 2?
Oh, maybe it's part 2. Maybe no. I think it was part 1. It was like, and then what happens is that something prevents him from going back to her, right? Like something happens with one of the with Obadiah Stane or whoever. Which great name for a baddie in a movie, you know. But
much better than Harrison French.
Right, exactly. Yes.
I mean, if you're stood there and they're like, "Well, we got 2 scripts for you, Matt." You got Obadiah Stane. You're like, "Oh." Obadiah Stane.
Right, I could go for that.
Or Harrison French. You're like Stane. All the way.
Right.
You'll have to shave your head. I don't care. At least I won't be a twat.
Can you imagine Jeff Bridges as the main character in this movie? Like was
a young Jeff Bridges, like time, or you mean an old?
I guess a 2004 Jeff Bridges in this movie, like.
So it's post Lebowski then. It's post Lebowski. It's post Lebowski Bridges.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't fit with the British period piece
Well,
element.
he wouldn't be able
yeah.
to be with the younger sister, that's for sure.
Right. No. I mean, that scene where when Lacey Chabert grabs his butt, it's like Spader must have looked at that and been like, that's not how you do it.
No.
You know,
that's
and
actually Spader's hand inside her, like when it does the close up. Right. He's like, Lacey, let me put your shirt on. Lacey, go behind this cloth, derobe, and then let me put your shirt on. Right. Because that's how Spader is, bless him. So, this is like The Room, only genuinely bad, this film. But apparently it is also the blueprint for the entire way that we now all live inside a Spader Matrix.
Yeah.
That is true. He is the puppet master behind all things. Imagine like the Upside Down in Stranger Things, but with pods in it strung together with his jism, his man milk, his body, his ball batter. That's what we're looking at right now. And that's where we're living, and that's what we have to accept, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so I think we've covered just about everything in Shadow of Fear, and just about everything that's going on in the world everywhere, I think.
Right. Yes.
But what we haven't done, Matt, is we haven't put something into the Sleazatorium, and we haven't answered listeners' questions. So what should we do first?
Either way, either one's good for me. So whichever you think.
We also didn't mention second film for Spader and Robin Tunney.
Yes.
They've been in two films together, Supernova and this film. The only reason I'm saying that is I assume that what he has in the... Well, no, I'll tell you what he has in the Sleazatorium. It's Lacey's shirt. That's what he has in the Sleazatorium.
I was thinking it was going to be... So the David Selby's character, the guy that... the weepy, moist businessman.
His daughter?
I was thinking his daughter would be in the Sleazatorium. But
what, preserved in fat or something?
She just sits there. She's just there. She's just... She's in the debutante gown, and she just hangs out in the Sleazatorium.
Everyone on the podcast will have just heard me say, preserved in fat. And I want them to know... that the image I had was that there would be an enormous magician's tank in the middle of the Sleazatorium filled with fat. And the daughter, Selby's daughter, was up against the edge of the tank, thunk, like that.
With like the Han Solo face.
Yes, Han Solo face. Trapped and therefore preserved by the fat. When I said preserved in fat, that was the image. Isn't that glorious, Matt, that our brains do that? That is wonderful. Yeah, I think the daughter... and right next to the magician's tank full of fat with Selby's daughter like that, there is a small mason jar. On which is written Selby's tears. Right. And he collected David Selby's snot and tears from the scene where he's crying about the fact that Spader is about to penetrate his barely legal daughter. Right. Also, does he do that with he does that with all the daughters.
Well, because I guess the deal
with the next generation of Spokane, Washington, just going to be all Spader babies?
Right.
Because that's a really diminishing gene pool after 2 generations.
It's all Spaders.
Wait, is the plan ultimately a Shadow of Fear, if his character had lived, to populate the entirety of Spokane, Washington in just 2 generations' time with Spader children? Yeah.
I think it was going to be all Spader kid. I mean, the sequel that we never got, right? Because they kill off Spader at the end.
Right.
Was him, impregnating Robin Tunney.
Right.
And Matthew, Harrison French having to raise their the Spader baby.
And then what you do, like Yellowstone went back to the past and a couple of different times, what you could do is you could do a spin-off that's like what would it be, 60 years in the future. And it is Spader, Spader has had sex with all the women in the town. All the men have then, died off or whatever. And he, died off. But then all the children are Spader and those women's children. Yeah. Then all those women die off. So then all of Spader's children, who are now, all Spader children, have to mate with each other. Right. And then, so by a third generation, you have Spader to the power of 4 or whatever. And you would do a show that was 50 years from now in which the entire world was all Spader of Spader offspring. Yeah. And how long would it take for the offspring? How many generations of, inbred Spader children would it take? See, Matt, no other podcast asks these questions. Right. How many generations of inbred Spader children would it take for them to just simply give birth to a dollop of fluids, like just a sack, just a flesh sack of fluids,
with a trilby hat or something on.
All right.
Well, I had another idea too. What if Robin Tunney was Spader's, and he got because doesn't he also sleep with wives too? Because he was
he's definitely slept with all the older ladies too. Spader doesn't discriminate.
Right. So Coyote actually, those aren't his kids. They're Spader's kids. That would be, so he was going to go sleep with his daughter in the hotel room. Or maybe he was never going to sleep with his daughter. And Harrison French went in there thinking he was going to stop her from sleeping with his daughter, when in fact, Spader had no intention of doing that ever. Right. He was just like, come on in. You didn't interrupt anything because she's my daughter.
Oh, man. Has this show gone to some dark and wonderful places? All right. So that's it for the Sleazatorium section. Now we are going over to the bit that everyone looks forward to in a Sleazy Spader springtime. That's right. It's the Andy Lunn email. Andy Lunn, always writing, lots of fun. He's a man who is coming to the US to stay with me. That is true. At the end of July, Andy Lunn comes to stay. That's true. Andy Lunn is coming to stay. Anyway, he wrote us an email, Matt. Here we go. Hello. So pleased that you're embarking on Shadow of Fear, a film which, according to Letterboxd, I rather enjoyed, then forgot instantly. All that sticks in my mind now is him looking longingly at Robin Tunney, although that might actually have been me. A couple of questions for you, as per your request. The only issue here is that after sending questions through for each Sleazy Spader springtime season, it becomes quite difficult both to think up new ones and to make sure to avoid any duplication. But here goes. For which of Spader's many roles would you have most liked to see him win an Academy Award? And in addition to this, what might be the content of his acceptance speech?
Oh, boy.
So, which of Spader's film performances do you think deserves an Academy Award?
Wow. Boy, I always love Crash. I always love him in Crash. Best supporting actor for Wolf, getting his shoe peed on. Because that would lend itself to a great a great speech, right? It's like, I might be the only one here who's ever won an award for having my shoe peed on, but
yes,
you really have to sell it when you have to sell that you're being urinated on, and it's not always easy to sell that. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably the best at selling that.
Yeah. Thankfully, due to my upbringing and my sexual proclivities, I'm the perfect man to show you how to have your shoe peed on in a realistic way.
He's just Pretty in Pink, where he's just, hair feathered, full adult who's playing a high schooler with kids. See,
I think, weirdly enough, that if I was going to pick something for him to win, I'm actually looking here, he does a ton of films before Pretty in Pink. Yeah. Pretty in Pink is, after Pretty in Pink, he basically plays adults.
Yeah.
He's 26 by the time he's in Pretty in Pink. He's
Playing a high schooler.
He's playing a high school kid. But again, also playing a high school kid with power and responsibility.
Right.
I would give him an Academy Award for his role in Mannequin.
I was thinking about that one.
I would do it merely because at that age, and with the sort of roles that he'd already done, where he was sort of basically, the young, sort of slightly well-to-do, but also enough rough around the edges kind of teen in a few kind of movies, starting with A Killer in the Family and then Tough Turf and New Kids, Star-Crossed. Once you've done a few roles of that, you don't expect the next thing they do is a Monty Python-esque, slick head down, round glasses wearing, slimy carry-on 70s sex comedy type film character like he plays in Mannequin. I mean, he is so oily, but not in a sleazy way. Like, it's weird. It's the one time where he channels all his sleaze oil into sort of, I don't know, like nerdy boss oil.
Right. Yeah, no, that's another great one, I think. And Mannequin's one of those ones like I watch and I'm just like, I used to like the song for it. Now I can't handle the song.
Yeah.
Like the idea of it sounds great, and then it's like, well, I don't know if when I watch it now, it's like I'm not sure. The actual Mannequin is at a store here in Philadelphia because I guess the movie was shot here in Philadelphia at what's now the Macy's.
Do you go visit the actual Mannequin?
Because I think it got moved to another place, and so I don't even But I think it's like this hipster clothing place called South Fellini, and so I don't think I'd be caught dead in there.
No. But that's who has. They're like, irony of ironies. We have the Mannequin.
Right, exactly.
It's like double irony because it's double Mannequin. But you think about it. After Mannequin, you have Baby Boom, Less Than Zero, Wall Street, Jack's Back, Sex, Lies and Videotapes, Rachel Papers, Bad Influence, White Palace, all which in that row, he is going right back to playing floppy head, sex pot, louche Spader, right?
Right, exactly.
Haven't seen True Colors, so I can't comment. Storyville, again, crooked, louche, Spader, politician guy. Music of Chance. I tell you what, if he was going to get a second Academy Award for me, it would be for the Music of Chance.
So I haven't seen that one yet. I'll have to see that one.
Because again, he's doing something a little different in that one. He's dyed his hair black. He's got a mustache. He's doing the full Daniel Day-Lewis. You know what I mean? He's dyed his hair and grown a mustache, and people are like, "Oh my God, the change is undeniable."
And that one's got Emmett Walsh. That's the Emmett Walsh one.
That's why, because Ebert will champion it, and then Spader will get the award. So that's okay. So that's, I think we've answered that. Do you have? We've answered that half, and then he says,
yeah, he reviewed it. Yeah, Ebert reviewed it. It's one of 13 critic reviews. Let me see if he gave it good marks. But
so what might be
3 stars?
Yeah. So what might be the content of his acceptance speech? I don't know, because I don't imagine Spader would want to thank himself. He doesn't strike me as someone who, it would be more that he would thank other people in a way that would be thanking himself. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. Like, thank you, Emmett Walsh, for being such a great character actor that I could, really shine next to.
Yeah.
It really allowed all of us to shine,
But I mean, now that we know that he's the puppet overlord, he would probably use his acceptance speech to slip in some bizarre non sequitur codes. So I would imagine his acceptance speech would be very jarring.
Yeah.
It would go from one extreme and tangent to another. So he would start with a normal thank you, and then suddenly flip it and start talking about, like, do you know that the Burmese rattle python can suck its own penis or something? And you'd be like, what is he talking about? And then it would skew off again to be some, when I was working with Robert Mitchum, like then it would be like the name dropping portion of the thing. Then he would go very, very quiet and say, he would read a Dostoevsky passage or something that was deeply moving to him. And he would then say that was for his wife.
Right.
Then he would probably go back to the Burmese python sucking its own dick. And then, I don't know. It would be weird. It would be a weird experience.
I feel like the two Emmy acceptance speeches must be available on YouTube or something like that to get a sense of like how, when he won a major award, like what he did. I feel like
watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's gotta be, I mean, there's one of his pictures. I think his old IMDb photo was of him holding up the Emmy.
Oh, okay.
At a red carpet or like maybe after the event. Now it just shows him in his tux. But I think one of the pictures that they used to have of him on IMDb was him holding the Emmy.
I will have to Google that after we're done. Yeah, I mean, I think in the Spader, in the reality of Spader, I believe he's a very nervous and OCD guy. So I imagine giving an award acceptance speech would probably drive him crazy. And he would probably stammer through a few erstwhile thank yous and then move on. In terms of the Spader that I like to believe exists in my head, I think it would be erratic, rambling. It would drop names of both obscure authors and celebrities he's worked with. And it would culminate in something absolute. He would do a Dostoevsky quote, say it was for his wife, and then explain in long, rambling detail why the Dostoevsky quote was all about vaginas. Right. And you would think to yourself, wait, did he say that Dostoevsky quote to his wife because he loves her and loves her vagina? Or is he saying that Dostoevsky quote to his wife and then saying, I love all vaginas?
Right, exactly.
So I think he would do that. And then lastly, Andy Lunn asks, when Spader is considering purchasing some kind of hand lotion, what particular qualities does he look out for? Well, viscosity, obviously.
Viscosity is going to say, I think that's a bad one. Lack of tackiness, right? He doesn't want it to be tacky.
No, he buys them from Anthropology in those little ceramic holders.
Right.
Like it's just a cheap pouch with a horrible pump on top of like an expensive ceramic thing. And it's not even as good as like the normal Myers pump things or whatever that you just buy. Or Dove soap hand dispenser or whatever. But he wants the ceramic and he wants, I don't know, an engraving of like two engorged pigs rutting each other on the side of it. All right, so that's that. Kim, my wife, has a question for us. Hey, Kim. She said, what, if any, name would James Spader choose if he wanted to and was able to change his name?
Wow. Because you feel like he might go outlandish, something like a Barrington or something like that, right?
I thought the first name that came into my head was Louche Velvet.
Louche Velvet.
I want to be Louche Velvet.
Louche Velvet. That's probably perfect.
But you're right. You have to get some of that Massachusetts blue blood kind of thing in there. So you have to get a Barrington or a Wotherington Peeve or something like that.
Right. Louche Barrington Velvet.
Yes. Oh, Louche Barrington Velvet. That's fantastic. So yes, that's the name he would pick. She said, who would change it? But still, discuss. Yeah. So I hope we vamped enough. But yes, Louche Barrington Velvet, I think it incorporates just about everything. Osvaldo Nato just sent us an email. So 1 second. That's so weird. That's so weird. I'm selling the Wingshauser movie Mutant. I have 2 copies, so I'm selling one copy on DVD on eBay. And someone just wrote to me, I'm looking for full screen. Do you know if this is? You're like, why would you want full screen? Like full screen means the square box.
Right.
It's 4:3. Why wouldn't you want widescreen?
Because they can only watch it on a tube TV? Is that like an old...
But tube TVs show widescreen. They just have the black bars above.
Wait, but yeah. They want to fit their 19-inch tube TV that they have.
Is that like a hipster question? I'm looking for, I only collect full screen. Oh, you only collect full screen? Have you heard of this thing called VHS? Yeah, no, it's too retro. I like to be just ever so slightly retro. So I'm going to go DVDs only, but just to be a fucking annoying cunt, DVD full screens.
I need the pan and scan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only watch things at a 4:3 ratio. It was the original ratio. I only watched black and white Brazilian documentaries about people dying from 1914. Anyway, Osvaldo Nito or Osvaldo, I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm so sorry, Osvaldo. I'm murdering your name. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Osvaldo Neto writes, "Hi guys, hello from a fan of batshit crazy and wonderful genre films in Brazil to 2 in the US." Look at this, Matt. We are crossing international boundaries with our fandom for Spader.
Right, yes.
There is a very cool and comfy crime film starring James Spader that I think is very underrated and forgotten nowadays. It's called The Stick-Up. It's written and directed by Rowdy Herrington. That's right, the same director from Jack's Back, also with Spader, and the great American classic called Roadhouse. Yeah. All the best, Osvaldo. He then says, for Matt, he writes to you as well, Matt.
Yeah.
I've been a reader from DTV Connoisseur for many years. Always good to know when there is another new article to read. Keep up the great work, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, I know Osvaldo because mutuals on Instagram. So yeah, he's always been, great guy. Yeah, so thank you very much, Osvaldo. Good to hear it. I'm going to try my best to keep doing those weekly posts. I think I missed one when I was away visiting my family earlier this year. So yeah, I try my best to get that one a week in there at least.
But worlds collide for Osvaldo. Yeah. John from the After Movie Diner and Matt from Direct to Video Connoisseur. We've reviewed The Stick-Up and Jack's Back here on the show. I have to say that actually I think both of those were, although they had their issues, some of my favorite, more of my favorite end of the Spader films that we've watched than some of the others. I remember enjoying The Stick-Up and Jack's Back. Jack's Back has that nice, like, glossy, late 80s, 90s kind of thriller look to it that I really like, just where they've got that camera gloss, kind of what Wings Hauser goes for in Art of Dying. It's got that kind of look and feel to it, you know, with the thick hues and the... there's a lot of night shooting in Jack's Back, I remember, and The Stick-Up. Fantastic. So, yeah, Osvaldo, we've already covered those on the show. So, as I said, on aftermoviediner.com, if you go to the podcasts drop down, you will see that underneath that drop down there is one that just says Sleazy Spader Springtime, and that will get you to all of the episodes we've done so far. As I say, you are joining us as we wrap up the last 4 or 5 episodes of Sleazy Spader ever. So yeah, we've done almost his entire career as we discussed earlier. So hopefully you'll go back and take a listen to some of those other episodes. But thanks so much for writing in. I think we have one more question, unless someone else left one. Did you want to say anything else? Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, I just like those old episodes. Actually, I kind of like the ones where the movies were bad. Like I think one of my favorites is the Keys to Tulsa episode.
Oh,
that
you
and Jim
hated that movie so badly.
Yeah, and I think I just enjoyed listening to you both hate it so much.
Of course. So Kyle Polling from previously of Bloodbaths and Boomsticks and now of Genre Core, the podcast, asks this question. This is quite a complicated question because you have to understand Kyle Polling's brain for this one. Rank these dudes on a Sleaze scale from 1 to 100, 50 being Spader and 100 being Joe Spinell. Now, Joe Spinell is definitely greasy and weird. He's definitely greasy and weird. He's not sleazy, though. He's too weird to be sleazy. He's too... And I don't think that even if there's a scale from 1 to 100, and even if we all agree to disagree, but that Spinell is 100, Spader is 99.5. Like, Spader is not 50. There aren't 49 people sleazier than Spader between Spader and Joe Spinell. I mean, all you would have to say is James Spader is driving your daughter to school, and you'd immediately be like, no, he's not, and never will. Get him as far away from my child as humanly possible. Especially, and I'm not insinuating that he's a pedophile. I'm saying if she was like 17, like right on the cusp, and blah, 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 there's no way on earth I would let
22.
Spader, 22. No way on earth
22,
I would ever let Spader anywhere near her, because his eyes say death. And what I said from the shower curtain at the beginning of the movie, here's a hollow shell filled with a lustful fiend.
Right.
But here we go. So let's assume, all right, Spader is in the 90s, Joe Spinell's 100. I'll stick with that. But here we go. George Eastman. Where would you put George Eastman on this scale?
Wow. That's a good question. George Eastman. I have to let me pull him up on IMDb. Get a good look at him here. Wow. So I'm thinking of
See, he's equating sleaze with sweat. I think that's what he's doing.
I'm just thinking of him in Warriors of the Wasteland. Is that Warriors of the Wasteland, where he his gang of guys, buggers, I guess is the term we want to use for the hero.
Yeah.
And then he gets it in the end, literally in the end, at the end of the film. I don't know that that's sleazy. Like, that's like right, like that's like there's something different about that Eastman. He's not, like you said, he's sweaty and
greasy.
Moist.
Yeah, moist.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Eastman deserves a good 40 spot, something like that. He's sort of 40%, 45% sleaze.
Yeah, I feel like if I had a chance to hang out with him in Italy, where he was, Luigi, right, or whatever, I think if I hung out with him there, I would probably see more sleaze. Like, I bet he hits on women in Italy, that are just walking down the street, stuff like that. So that might move him up past Spader.
I'm just reading. We're never going to have time to go through all of these. I'm just reading the list that he gave us.
Okay.
And we'll do a quick fire round, but I'm just going to read the list first. George Eastman, George Wendt.
George Wendt.
I mean, George Wendt isn't sleazy at all.
No, right,
He's kindly Uncle Roly-Poly George Wendt. Yeah. Antonio Banderas, don't underestimate south of the border sleaze. Yeah. Never. And Banderas is undoubtedly sleazy. Cameron Mitchell, Joe Don Baker.
Oh, Joe Don Baker. Like Cameron Mitchell.
Where does Kyle come up with this list? Joe Don Baker, Brian Dennehy, Tom Bosley from Happy Days.
Brian Dennehy slot. Yeah, Tom Bosley. Okay, so Bosley maybe in those later Happy Day seasons where he was like, they weren't even pretending that the show took place in the 50s, where he was like wearing like 80s like grandpa glasses or sunglasses that, like, I think they were transitions.
Yeah.
Like, that period of time was a little bit more sleazy than like.
But it's all, he lists a whole bunch of flabby character actors. Literally, like George Wendt, Cameron Mitchell, Joe Don Baker, Brian Dennehy, Tom Bosley, Eric Roberts, leading man looks, but I don't know if he's sleazy. Wings Hauser. Yeah. Wings Hauser is sleazy. He's like 75% sleazy. But what you have to do with Wings Hauser is you have to undercut the sleaze with some true perversity. True perversity. Because the love scenes that Hauser embarks on, they're not comfortable to watch. No. A James Spader love scene, it's uncomfortable, but in a comfortable way. Wings Hauser is just flat out depraved. He goes on, Carl McLachlan, who he calls Carl McLachlan the anti-sleaze. Is Carl McLachlan the anti? Does no one find Carl McLachlan at all erotic?
I think if you watch his character on Sex and the City, I think he's like very much not sleazy. But I don't know. I guess Portlandia, right? He plays the mayor in Portlandia.
Right. Well, I was thinking, Agent Cooper.
Yeah.
Is Agent Cooper in any way at all sleazy? He's not, but he's so not sleazy that he's almost coming back around to sleazy.
Right, it's a circ, yeah.
Yeah, if Kyle had given him just a slight wink in the eye, which he never did, he played it very straight, but if you gave him just a slight wink in the eye, it would have nudged it over into sleazy again.
Yeah.
That's what. So I don't think he's the well, maybe that makes him the anti-sleaze. If he's so anti-sleaze, he's almost sleazy.
Yeah.
That's the anti-sleaze.
I just think of the episode where he eats the pie.
Right.
He's eating the pie at the diner. Whenever he's eating the pie at the diner in Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
There's nothing sleazy about how he eats the pie.
No.
And I feel like eating pie is something like if you watch Spader eating pie in a movie,
it's depraved. Yes.
Yes.
Well, he would love to order the peach cobbler. Like that would be Spader's favorite pie is a peach cobbler. Like you could just imagine Alan Shaw on, and Denny Craig going out for dinner or whatever. Like, Denny, would you like me to order you the peach cobbler? Get out of here, you liberal. Fucking liberals with their peach cobblers. Yes. I'm going to have a gun on toast. Bow, bow, chicken it. I've been watching a lot of Boston Legal. Anyway, I'm going to go. So, George Eastman, George Wendt, Antonio Banderas, Cameron Mitchell, Joe Don Baker, Brian Denny, Tom Bosley, Eric Roberts, Wings Hauser, Carl McLaughlin, Ernest Borgnine. How is Ernest Borgnine sleazy?
He won an Oscar for the most unsleazy role ever in Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ernest Borgnine, Ernest P. Worrell, the character that Jim Varney plays.
Not sleazy either. He's creepy, but not sleazy.
Paulie from Rocky. Didn't even name him. Paulie from Rocky. Rocky Dennis and George C. Scott. What is that list, Kyle? That is one of the weirdest. That's a fantastic list, but the trouble is with that list, Kyle, is that 90% of them get between 1 to 5 on the sleaze scale, and then 10% of them are like hovering in the middle. There's no 75, 80, 90% sleazies there for my way of thinking.
No, the only one I said, I think Eastman, in Italy, he might be sleazier in Italy than he is in the movies he made.
Oh, he is Eastman, I would give I think I gave him a 45, 50% sleaze, Eastman.
Yeah. I think Luigi Montefiore is his real name.
Yeah.
Luigi Montefiore is
he's a
the
sleaze
sleaziest.
Bucket. Yeah,
yeah.
He's a sleaze
he has
bucket.
the shirt that's unbuttoned.
Yes.
And he just stands on a wall as women walk by and he whistles at them and tries to grab them.
We have to talk about this very quickly. Yep. In Shadow of Fear, firstly, there was a scene where for no reason whatsoever, Matthew Davis had his shirt unbuttoned to a ridiculous level. To a point where it came on screen and I went, button that up.
Right.
Like instinctively, like as if it was my mother watching a soap opera and a slightly too swarthy gentleman came on the screen. She'd be like, put it away. It's like that. Button it up. When he came on screen. But then we didn't get into this. His job is states. We don't know what that means. Right? He keeps going on these lunch dates where he just keeps saying the word estates over and over again to nodding extras who they can't afford to pay. And then he'll get a phone call and he'll pick up the phone and be like, yes, estates, and then hang up. And he'll keep saying estates. But he has an assistant at the firm.
Right.
The firm, which, by the way, is one desk that looks like it's tucked out the back of a travel agent's where no one else works.
Right.
It looks like it's a front for something is what this job looks like. Right. What about the secretary's outfits?
Right, yes.
What? Okay. There are multiple scenes in this movie where his secretary, I'm not going to say not attractive, but I'm going to say a nondescript, curly-haired mess of femininity, where they have contrived using a push-up bra and certain dresses to make like she has fishbowl tits, like huge round fishbowl tits. on more than one occasion in the movie. On more than one occasion, as if they were like, oh, we need, like, to sell this overseas, we need a little sex appeal. And they went, pop your top off, Barbara. Pop your top off, love. And they went, well, we've got to get her the most ridiculous, like, vampiric. She has Elvira breasts, basically.
Right.
Like fishbowl breasts. And you're like, well, why? Whose idea was that?
Yeah.
Because the rest of the movie, it's not like that. There's one other scene where, this is another weird thing. There's one of the guys who gets caught having adultery.
Right.
And then Spader's like, no, you have to keep having adultery. Like, you can't not have adultery.
Right.
To the point where he doesn't even want to be having adultery anymore.
Right.
To the point where there's this whole scene in a clothing store where he's having adultery and telling James Spader, I don't want this adultery anymore.
Right.
And Spader being like, I don't think he wants to be having adultery anymore. And then adultery drags him into a dressing room and is having adultery with him right there in the dressing room while his wife is just outside.
Just shopping in the area, yeah.
No, but she's right outside. Like, she goes to find him.
Oh, right. She almost goes into the fitting room.
To the dressing room.
Yeah.
And fitting room. Yeah.
Yeah.
What this movie needed, if you wanted to put, like, sex in this movie to sell it overseas, that's where you have an intercut between the quaint little conversation that's happening outside between Spader, Robin Tunney, and Janie, what's her name?
Yeah, Janie
Sawgrass, Shirley Brenner.
Yeah.
Shirley Brenner, who I'm going to get on the podcast, so I'll be able to ask her all the questions. So it should intercut between the three of them having this pleasant conversation. And then an outrageous, like, DTV, soft pornographic sex scene going on inside the dressing room with a guy who doesn't want to be having a sex scene. So she's all like, like wildly slamming him against walls and waving her arms about. And she's topless and they're grinding and bouncing and everything else like that. But he is just dead inside. Like, he is just miserable. And then it keeps cutting between quaint chat and then this. That's where they missed a trick, Matt. That's where they needed, because how hilarious would that be?
Oh, it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect. The movie needed that kind of energy.
Right.
And it
needed any energy.
Well, you're right. It needed energy on a lot of levels.
They thought the dance scene was going to carry a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to energy, because they got 4 people who couldn't even twirl without, like, bumping into each other.
Right.
But that whole thing. So Spader's just like, well, I've got this plan. Everyone has to do their crime over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, what's my crime? Well, your crime is adultery. So wait, I've got to just continually cheat on my wife. Yes, you've got to continue to the point where I don't even like it anymore. It doesn't matter. I need you to keep cheating.
You just keep cheating.
Like, why at any point? But wait a minute. Sorry, Matt. I can't believe that this movie is still occupying my brain. At a certain point, they need someone to throw the detective off the scent, right? We haven't even talked about the chief of police's melting face. Matt, we've done such a bad job. We've been talking almost 5 hours, and we haven't even brought up the melting face.
Right.
Oh, I'm so sorry about this. Quickly, then. The chief of police has a huge melty face and a tiny little mustache, and he looks like someone skinned John Cleese and pulled him over a giant mushroom. That's what he looks like. He looks like someone Texas Chainsaw Massacred faced John Cleese. He's horrendous. He looks like the blobby guy at the end of RoboCop who's had the toxic waste poured all over him. Only as a regular human being. But to throw them off the scent, they go downtown Spokane.
Right.
Where they have some acting students with a little bit of, like, dirt on their face.
Right.
As homeless people. These people look like they were just 5 minutes ago hanging out on the gates of college or whatever, the steps of college. And now someone's going, put a bit of boot polish on your face and lie in this doorway, will you? Be homeless. Do you remember that? They drive down this back alley with all these homeless art students. I'm like, what's going on here?
Right. The local university, Gonzaga. I think they got to thank you in the credits. They just went to Gonzaga and say, who wants to earn $50? And,
right. Yeah. And then they pick this guy out of a hat and they tell him to go to the, basically they set this homeless person up to be the patsy for Matthew Davis. Yeah. And that's a whole thing that happens in the movie, right?
Right, exactly, yes.
And you're like, but were the police detectives going anywhere near the airport or any of that stuff? No. He goes, there's the big leak with the fucking, that's the best scene in the movie. Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't talk about this either. Spader, I think I messaged you this. What was the phrase he says? In an ocean of adjectives and the word tight keeps flopping ashore. So they're on a telephone call and Spader's basically telling him that there's a big problem. Any minute now, you're going to be found out. Yeah. And the big clue that Aidan Quinn has found, almost pristine, lying next to a body. So this is what you got to believe, right? It is his "Hello, my name is" sticker from the event that he just left, which we saw this Tuesday night event thing. We don't know what it is yet. We don't know who's all there, but he's there and he's wearing a "Hello, my name is Harrison French." And maybe, again, that's why it's called Harrison French, because they were first-time screenwriters. They were like, oh, if our big clue reveal is his name badge, it better not be a normal name. It has to be a name that only he has, because if it says Alan Smith on it, that could be anybody.
Right.
And we're like, no, but if the movie hero is called Alan Smith and they find a badge that says, "Hello, my name is Alan Smith," we'll go with it. His name doesn't have to be Harrison French just to make the fucking plot make sense. It doesn't make sense anyway, because it was torrential rain. First of all, torrential rain. So let's say the sticker gets rained on and falls down into the mud while he's moving a body around and dragging a body around and throwing branches over the body and whatever, right? You're telling me that the next morning it is lying pristine and dry within a yard of the body, within a few feet of the body. No, that thing is at best sodden and ground into the dirt, or it's, torn up and in different places around the place, right? And he tries to say, well, the reason why my sticker is where it is because I was mad and I threw it out the window. And then Aidan Quinn tries to throw the sticker, tries to pretend to throw the sticker out the window. And I have never enjoyed something so much. As bad as this movie was, that's the kind of scene that I would put in a movie, because you would never, any other movie on the planet, you would never see a movie where the movie hinged on a fucking "Hello, my name is" sticker. Right. But secondly, that you would believe not only that the sticker was still intact, but that it was sticky enough that it could still stick to his finger and not be able to be thrown out the window. Yeah. It's completely mad, but one of the best scenes in any film, because essentially what that scene in that film is doing is it is questioning normal movie logic, where you kind of go, oh yeah, he threw it out the window and there it is. So it's joyous. It's wonderful. That bit was an absolute delight. So we missed out all of that stuff in the police station, and I apologize if we've shortchanged people, but I will edit this bit into the middle of the show, I guess. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just leave it at the end.
That's great at the end. I think it works at the end, too.
All right, Matt. I think that's it. I think we've covered absolutely everything. This movie was a delight.
It was. It was a delight to discuss.
It was horrible to watch. It was horrible. At one point, Aidan Quinn goes, I'm really going to get him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to fix this guy, whatever. Hangs up the phone, leans back in the chair, and just goes, what is going on? And I'm like, That was like 50 minutes in, and I'm like, I'm with you, Aiden. I have no idea what.
We don't know.
We've got no idea, mate, what is going on.
Exactly.
But Spader is just loosely lying around saying shit like an ocean of adjectives, and the word tight keeps flopping ashore. I said it was like Eyes Wide Shut, made by the Hallmark Channel and written by children. Which is kind of what it was. But yes, there we go. That is the longest. That is, first of all, that's the only podcast episode about Shape of Fear that I'm sure exists on the planet. And it is by far, even if one other one exists. Look at me now, I'll Google it and there'll be the Shape of Fear podcast. And it'll be a podcast by Matt Holloway and Art Markham discussing the shadowy blueprint of total Spader domination. And we'll be like, now I know this shit is real. It's a true crime podcast. I think I'm the only one, but everyone else has seen Shadow of Fear. We're going to find out. That's what it is. Anyway, Matt, tell everyone your final thoughts on the film and where they can find you and what you're going to be doing and all that good shit.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is, unless you're doing something like this where you're trying to watch all the Spader films, it is probably better to avoid it. But if you're trying to see all of Spader's films, this is on Tubi, so you can at least get it for free. So not some of the other ones you're going to drag up or anything like that. So there's that going for it. In terms of the site, dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com, that's where you can find everything. My most recent novel, Don's House in the Mountains, the link to that is there. Bainbridge short action novella that I wrote. That's also available there. And of course, the podcast, links to the podcast are there as well. So everything's there. Everything's on dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com.
Fantastic. And as always, you can rate and review us wherever podcasts are found. Please go do it. But no, go rate. If you just made it to the end of this episode, go rate and review us. Just go rate and review us. Everyone go rate and review us. Matt, I was talking earlier today in my Instagram post about this, but with the over-corporatization and every fucking celebrity under the sun having a podcast, and most of our friends no longer podcasting to quite the extent that we are keeping it going in a pump up the volume type way, I'm very happy about. And I'm getting jazzed about the podcast again. So I'm going to get every cast member I possibly can from Shadow of Fear on this show to discuss it. And, we're going to go full steam ahead on the podcast. And so please rate and review us. And I will try and get everyone, yes, even Sarah Ann Schultz on the After Movie Diner to discuss the making of Shadow of Fear. Because if I don't, Matt, no one else will. And the whole world. What if by doing that making of, I solve the Spader conundrum and he is like exploded forever and we awaken out of the Matrix?
I think what happens is that's not how it works. I think the way it works is like the end of this movie where you trick him into going on some road where it's windy, rainy road, and he gets out of the car and he pulls a gun on you, and you've got a gun, and he challenges you. Are you going to shoot? And you end up having to shoot him. You had to pull the trigger. It's either you or him.
And then I become the master of the universe. And on that bombshell.
Right, you get stuck with it.
All right, Matt. I got to go to bed. Thanks so much.
Same here. Absolutely. See you.